All right, well, 7 o'clock, December 15th, I'm going to call this meeting of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors to order. My name is Jennifer Wingard, co-chair of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and land use supervisor. Girdwood Board of Supervisors is subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 for the meetings. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meeting Standard of Conduct. Would you like to do the land acknowledgement?
Really? I thought you would never
I
ask.
know, I bet you thought that.
Thank you. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors acknowledges the indigenous peoples of Alaska, whose land we reside on. The community of Girdwood, situated between the areas known to be Dena'ina and Aluktik homeland, respects the people who were stewards of this land for generations. We commit to the continued stewardship of this land and are grateful to be a part of a wider community that seeks to maintain a sustainable use of Girdwood Valley for present and future peoples.
All right, let's start with roll call.
Mike Edgington,
Present online.
thank you. Brianna Sullivan,
Present.
Brian Burnett,
Present?
Kelly Okonek,
Present.
and Jennifer Wingard.
Here.
All are here.
All right, public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discussion stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public and keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. One of our announcements is that we need a volunteer individual to serve on the Wildland Urban Interface Community Action Team.
One, that's later in the agenda, but we got one.
Oh, we do?
So it is later on the agenda. It's new business. I haven't received a letter from that person yet, and so I suppose there are a couple of questions about it. But anyway,
Okay,
it seems like it fits for now under new business.
okay. Upcoming meetings, we have the GBOS work session regarding intergovernmental charges and a GBOS rules and goals part 2. Both of those are dates to be decided. The GBOS committees will hold elections to fill executive leadership roles at their first meeting in the new year. I know in particular, we're looking for land use committee people to step up to be chair or co-chairs or chairs and vice chair, I believe that's how that works. GBOS seats D and E terms end in 2026. Candidate filing for the 2026 regular municipal election will open on Friday, January 16th, 2026 at 8 a.m. and close on Friday, January 30th, 2026 at 5 p.m. And you can look online for elections candidate information. In addition to those announcements, I also want to add that there is going to be a Safer Seward Highway meeting on January 13th from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock here in the community, here at the library, community room. Yeah. And there is a button there's a tab on the safersewardhighway.com website where you can ask to be added to the mailing list.
Jennifer, I had one more too.
Yes.
We have, it's in the packet tonight, but on tomorrow night, here from 6 to 9, we're going to have the draft park design for the Girdwood Parks Master Plan. And this will be an open house, and there will be no formal presentation at the beginning. There will be stations. You can come in and see the different ideas for the different park parcels within Girdwood that we've come up through the public planning process on this. So we welcome all those to come out, and the information's here. You can also get to the website to find the latest information if you can't attend the event. But if you have any questions, you can come there as well.
Yeah, of course.
Is it a repeat of the one we did before? Like if we went before, do we need to go again?
This is the latest version. So that input led to drafts, and it's more defined now as to
Got
what
it.
we've seen. So
Got it. Thank you.
Right, if that's all the announcements, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second the approval of tonight's agenda.
Okay, do we have any discussion? I had something, actually. I was notified that we have some changes to the HLB work plan that were posted on the HLB site. The HLB AC meeting is this Thursday, But if we were at all interested in having a representative there or in posting some feedback about the current changes, I would entertain a motion to add that under new business for the agenda. And in particular, me personally, I might be interested, or I think the board might be interested in the fact that they have removed disposal of 6-134 and 6-076 from the 1-year plan and move those to the 5-year plan.
Which parcel is that?
Yeah, I'll second that. Could I suggest we consider putting that in old business because it is something we've discussed before and it's a follow-up to any changes they've included.
Okay, so Mike, that would be you making the motion then that we add
Okay,
it under
yeah,
old.
I'll make the motion that we add it to old business, the last item of old business.
I'll second. And then I have a question. You referenced 2 parcel numbers. What are those numbers?
Sure.
I don't have them memorized.
No, that is okay. That is Orca View Estates, the Ruane parcel, and then the 134 is this, the parcel that had been discussed for the RV park.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm adding that to 13B. Do we have any discussion about that? Or are there any objections to adding that under old business? Okay, I'm going to take that by assent. I have one other question. I'm curious if the board is interested in sending a representative. There is a Safer Seward Highway constituent or kind of interested parties meeting this December 18th, LUSAC, in the Beluga meeting room from 10 a.m. to noon. So if we have any interest in sending somebody there, or if there is anybody who could go, I was hoping we could consider adding that to the agenda, but if nobody's interested, there's no need.
I will share, I do tend to staff, go to those meetings, just to
Okay.
understand what's going on.
Okay, excellent. All right, so do we have any motion on that or are we good? Okay, that's being done then. Do we have any objections to approving the agenda as now amended? No, all right, I'm taking that by consent. Now I would entertain a motion for approving the minutes from November 17th and 19th or one or the other.
I move to approve the minutes from November 17th and November 19th.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? All right, any objections? Okay. By assent, we're moving on. Those have been approved. All right. I don't see any presentations. Moving on to our legislative reports. We have lovely to see our representatives in person. So let me start with Senator Kathy Giesel.
Thanks, Madam Co-Chair. My report is basically a budget. It came out, of course, last week. It is a deficit spending budget from the governor, which is seriously disappointing to me. This is year 7 for him and still getting deficit budgets. The money that we do have, about more than 60% of it is coming out of the earnings of the permanent fund itself. So that will be $4 billion coming into the general fund. So that can be spent on anything. Less than 30% is coming from oil now. So the days of oil providing 75 to 90% of our revenue are long gone. The rest of the money is coming from those mining taxes, tourism, fisheries, cruise ships, stuff like that. Just tiny little stuff. Oil price is predicted to go down next year. They're forecasting $62 a barrel. This year, our budget balanced at $64 a barrel. It averaged this last year around 65, but we are seeing even in the international news a forecast of dropping oil prices because there's a glut of oil and frankly, some less use of oil as well. The permanent fund dividend that the governor is proposing is $3,800. Yes, I know, it is shocking. I totally agree. And that would cost us $2.4 billion. So to put that in contrast, we spent $680 million in October of this year for a $1,000 dividend. So $680 million He's proposing we spend 2.4 billion. That's out of the 4 billion that's coming out of the permanent fund. So more than half of the earnings of the fund, he's proposing we spend on a dividend. So that gives us a deficit of $1.5 billion in the budget he's proposing. There is also a supplemental budget for this year. We're in fiscal year 26 right now. That will go to the end of June. And it started July 1, okay, this summer. Well, we've had some increased expenses for firefighting and disasters. We all know about Southwest Alaska. So that has given us a deficit for this year of $340 million. So that's a supplemental budget he'll be proposing. So a lot of people hear supplemental budget, what is that? It's basically overspending so far this year. So altogether, the total deficit of this budget that's being proposed is $1.8 billion. The constitutional budget reserve has $300 billion in it. So 1.8 billion is going to have to come out of our savings account, which is 3 billion, which will leave us less than, about 1.2 billion left, right? So that means the following year, we're going to be in a real problem because we won't have a lot of reserves to cover budget deficits anymore. That means anymore. That's the end of our savings account. The constitutional budget reserve is one savings account. It takes 3/4 vote of the legislature to spend that. We've already totally used up the statutory budget reserve. That's another savings account we used to have, but we spent that down a couple years ago. So when leadership met with the governor on Thursday morning, I think it was Thursday morning, could have been Friday. I can't remember exactly. I think it was Thursday though. He told us that he is now open to new revenue, which is pretty exciting. This is only year 7. He is interested in solving this budget problem that we have. Again, I'm thrilled. So he has indicated that he's interested in proposing a state sales tax. This isn't a new concept. About 3 years ago, he called the 2 leadership groups together, House and Senate, and actually put on the Excel spreadsheet on the screen a 2% sales tax statewide. And different scenarios, you know, these things exempt, those things not, whatever. And you could move the spreadsheet around. It's all very interesting, but he never came to the point of actually proposing the legislation and putting it on the table so we could actually debate it and talk about what the numbers would mean. So it isn't a new concept. It isn't widely embraced because many of our communities, boroughs, municipalities, et cetera, have local taxes already. So we'd be piling on to that local sales tax, which would be quite a burden in many communities. Not in Anchorage. We don't have a sales tax, but it would in other communities. So the Alaska Municipal League is not a fan of a statewide sales tax. So I can kind of understand that. He did not mention anything about a personal income tax or anything like that. He did say that he is looking at changing oil tax structure. That's kind of vague. We're looking at that too, but we don't really, we'd have to be aligned. So we'll have to see what that is. He has vetoed a bill we did pass last year, the online sales tax. So corporations that sell into Alaska, they do business in Alaska, but they are based in another state. Think Amazon, Netflix, things like that. They pay corporate taxes in all the other states, but we don't have a law that requires them to pay it here. So we passed a bill that would require them to pay a corporate income tax here. He vetoed it. So, it wasn't going to bring in a huge amount of money. It was about $35 million, as I recall. But, it would pay for some things. He vetoed that. We do have a S corporation tax bill on the table right now. We don't know what he would do with that. S corporations are privately owned businesses that in other states pay their income tax through the owner's personal income tax. So if you had, well, there's a pizza place here in Girdwood, and it is owned by a woman. The reason I know this is I had a community meeting here and she said, wait, don't put a corporate income tax on me. She's an S corporation. She would be taxed on the profits of her pizza place through a personal income tax. But we don't have a personal income tax. This is true of one of our large oil companies. Hill Corp is an S corp. It's owned by an individual. He doesn't live here in Alaska, but even if he did, we don't have a personal income tax here. He pays no corporate tax on the profits of Hill Corp. Hill Corp owns most of the leases in Cook Inlet. They own the only jackup rig that is what you need to drill a well for gas or oil in the inlet. He owns under contract the marine services to the platforms as well as the helicopter services. He is the operator of the North Slope, all of those facilities, plus some of the leases up there. Has a very large hand in Alaska's oil and gas business, but pays no corporate income tax. Conoco does. Conoco is a C corporation, publicly traded, so they're an entity in and of themselves, and we tax them. So the S corp tax would attempt to then levy the tax on any oil and gas company producing oil and gas or transporting it who makes net $5 million or more a year. So that's their profit level. Above that, they would pay the 9.4% corporate tax that Alaska has in place. That's our highest bracket of corporate income tax. We have much lower ones, and below, I forget what the income is. There's no corporate income tax for very small businesses. So that bill is on the table. We don't know if the governor would veto that or not. We think it would bring in about $90 million a year. Again, it's not billion, but it's more than zero. So the budget situation is going to be a big piece of what we're going to be doing going forward. Another thing that is going to be a pressing issue is the gas pipeline. So we have a gas pipeline development corporation that has divested 75% of the ownership in the project to a private entity, which, by the way, is an S corp. The name of the entity is Glenfarne. And they are acting now as a middleman to draw investors into a project. The estimated cost of this project about 10 years ago was $44 billion. That is to put a gas treatment plant on the North Slope to remove the sulfur and so forth, a pipeline down to Nikiski, and then an LNG export facility in Nikiski. So $44 billion. We also did the numbers for just a simple pipeline down the middle of the state, supply Fairbanks, Anchorage, and points in between, and the Kenai. Just the pipeline. We don't need a treatment plant. We don't need an export facility. The price on that is $10 billion. That number is 10 years old. We now have tariffs on steel, et cetera, right? So Glenfarne told us last month in a legislative budget and audit meeting that they will come to final investment decision, that is collect updated numbers and people to invest by January. So we are expecting by the time we go back into session that Glenfarne will be bringing some final numbers to us. That's what they promised to us. We'll see what happens. We're asking a lot of questions like, what are you expecting from the state? They have said we want a reduction in taxes, and they've identified property taxes as one of the things they would like to have a reduced liability for. The governor has made the comment to us that he would like to reduce the property taxes from the cap of 20 mils down to 2 mils to help make this an economic project. So this is money that would go to the municipalities along the way that the pipeline would pass through, and any state land, of course. So that will be a conversation with the local communities. This was a big deal when we had the first gas line project that you might remember there, 2014, 2015, 2016. We had a municipal group get together, the various communities that the pipeline went through, and wrestle with what they would want for a property payment in lieu of taxes, a PILT. They never came to a conclusion. One community wanted a lot, even though the pipeline just went through a very small part. North Slope, of course, wanted a huge amount because that's where it starts. So you can imagine the conflict there. So this, again, will be an interesting conversation. So that was rather lengthy, I'm sorry, but it's a big deal and affects us all. So happy to take any questions. Thanks.
I have questions and comments. Number one, is the permanent fund at 3, is that a proposal or is that like a done deal?
The amount of money that's coming out of the fund or the dividend that,
The dividend that's proposed.
no, it is not a done deal.
So it's on the table for consideration.
Absolutely.
And then just comments. I totally take the S Corp situation and I was actually going to ask you what's the deal? Or is there some efforts to tax S Corp? Because that is crazy. Or it's interesting, but I would suggest like, I mean, you said the 5 million, but like, man, there's a yes and where we don't stifle small businesses like Coast Pizza trying to, you know, because that's not the same. And then we talk a lot about startup environment and do we want to be an entrepreneurial place? And like, man, there's a whole creativity and vibrancy. Don't make us all suffer. And I'm part of it. Don't make us all suffer because flippant Hildebrand wasn't want to pay his taxes. You know what I mean? And then he's setting a precedent that says, come to Alaska, you don't have to pay taxes, just be an S Corp. And so I do agree with like doing something, but like some sort of income threshold or something, or you can't just choose industry because that's not fair, but you know, whatever it is, you know, because like there are a lot of people who would, you know, be really personally affected. And then I will just offer that the gas treatment plant isn't specific to exports. You'd have to do it if you brought gas down because of the 12% CO2 in the gas. You've got to take it out. And it's the only thing you take out in a gas treatment plant, just FYI. You couldn't run it in our turbines here either.
The folks on the North Slope tell me that it's actually burner tip ready for local use, for appliance, local type use, but not for export.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a nuance.
You guys electrics could burn 12% CO2 then?
Well, the CO2 isn't in it, there's sulfurs in it.
CO2, it's 12%.
Well, the CO2 is being pulled out.
Not unless you have a gas treatment plant.
Well, I'm not an expert. I'm going to leave it at
I
that.
am.
Okay, very good.
There's 12% CO2 in Bruno's gas that's re-injected in the reservoir and that would come back out. You either have to remove it in a gas treatment plant or burn it. And there's very little sulfur, but the gas treatment plant is predominantly for the 12% CO2.
You know, what's kind of fun is in Hawaii, they add a certain percent of hydrogen to their natural gas to dilute its, or to expand its, to give them more burning gas in their appliances. But back to the S Corp tax, it is specific to oil and gas companies producing or transporting. We do call out a particular business, and that is constitutional. And the $5 million is the threshold. They have to make $5 million at least.
Okay.
So Coast Pizza will not be making
Okay,
or be liable.
all right, cool. That makes me happy.
Okay,
I
good.
don't want to be responsible for Hildebrand's tax evasion action.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions?
I have just a follow-up on that S Corp tax. So it's going to only be levied at oil and gas companies, so not other resource extraction companies.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And good luck.
Can I ask,
Sorry.
why not? I mean, if it's because we think it would put mining out of business?
Almost all the mining companies are corporate, are C Corps.
Okay.
And the profit margin there is not as extensive, not nearly as extensive as it is in oil and gas. There simply isn't that much flesh to take.
Good question, Brian. Thank you.
All right. We would love to hear from you now, Kyle, and thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
You got Kai Holland, House District 9 rep. I think the budget information, you've gotten a really good overview of that. I'll be on 7 of the budget subcommittees and have a chance to do a deep dive. I just spent the weekend trying to dig into all of the weeds on this. It's interesting. I will note one thing that the senator mentioned is that there is going to be this proposed fiscal plan from the governor coming out in January. It'll be interesting to look at it. If you look at his current 10-year budget proposal, there is a magic $1.5 billion that just shows up out of nowhere in fiscal year 28. So the next year, right now, we're going to be planning for 27. So 28, just poof, 1 point. It's across the 10 years, there's actually 9 years he has it in there. It's between 1.5 and a little over $1.8 billion a year that is coming from someplace. And as an order of magnitude, it's about the same amount of money that we're getting from the oil and gas industry. It's that big. I don't know where it's coming from, but that's what we're going to be chewing on, which is a roundabout way also of noting that we'll be starting, and I think we already are, collecting information on the CAPSIS proposals again. I'm working with the senator on that. And I would encourage you to continue to be thinking about proposals. My understanding from the senators is unlikely to be any money for CAPSIS type projects. But if we're going to have this conversation about a fiscal plan and about new revenue and how it might be used, I think it is super important for us this year that we really have a clear understanding of the unmet community needs, so that as we're then debating down the road, where is this new revenue going to be used, if we can figure out how to make it, that we recognize that we have left the communities holding an empty bag for a number of years with the reduction in the community revenue sharing and the lack of CAPSIS. So I would really encourage you this year in particular to make sure we know what those needs are. Not that we're going to be able to magically fill them, but I think it's an important part of the discussion so that we're clearly informed about those needs that are being met. Let's see, a couple other odd things here. The WUICAT meeting that I think you're going to talk about again, our next meet, we're not going to have a December meeting. The next meeting will be in January, on January 26th at 7 p.m. That's a Zoom meet. Need information on that, let me know. Other than that, I'm getting ready to go down to Juneau with everyone in early January. I've got legislation still moving ahead in the wildfire area, working on some right-of-way, as well as working with DOT on the, so I'm sorry, the first part was the utility right-of-way, what they do in terms of clearing and the land around it. But the second part is the DOT and their right-of-way. I've got a couple of energy bills I'm working on, a diversified portfolio standard for renewables and other energy sources other than just fossil fuel, as well as a net metering bill. And related kind of to here is I've got the brewery bill that would allow the small breweries to be able to hold their 4 events a year without having to go get a special event permit. There was an article in the paper, I think Sunday, it was on the front page. If you saw the brewery article on there, you'll see it describes a little bit about that bill I've been working on, and it's got a little information for me about the bill and the support that it has there. And then the other final thing is just a note, for better or for worse, I somehow have stepped into the daylight savings time, Alaska Standard Time debate, and I would love any input from you down the road on where you think that may go. I think virtually everybody agrees we want to stop changing the clocks. But in terms of where we land, a little more light in the morning, a little more light in the evening, things get a little harder. So I'm not going to die on this hill, but it's been a super fascinating discussion to learn about the history and to talk with people about, how does this affect mental health and morning routines? How does this affect evening recreational activities and access to another form of health in terms of getting out? So I've really enjoyed working on it. Appreciate the opportunity to work on that. And then I just want to finish up, one of the most important things I was asked to focus on when I got started on this, in addition to education, but that's a different topic that's under, I think we kind of know what's going on there, but was the LNG issue of where are we in terms of LNG and Cook Inlet. And the most recent information we got just a few weeks ago shows that with the new gas fields that are coming online, with the increased use of the storage reservoir, Right now, we're kind of pushed back out now to it looks like about 2030 is when there becomes a gap. If you go roll back a year ago, the issue was around 2028. It looked like there was a big problem. So I don't think we should become complacent, but I do think we need to recognize that Hillcorp has been drilling a bunch of wells. About 2/3, almost 3/4 of the wells drilled, about 20 of them, are producing some new gas. Fury, Hex Fury did get a couple more wells drilled. There is producing some more gas. So, you know, there's some positive steps, but we still need to look very carefully at the LNG import issue. And you probably saw an article a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, about the two facilities that are being proposed, and do we need to, how are we going to manage that? So that's going to be a super high priority for me, is to make sure that we have a clear plan ahead in terms of making a decision and not waiting too long and then finding ourselves having to create too many import facilities or not having a good solution before we get back into that crisis point where we kind of felt like we were a year ago.
Has Hillcorp committed to the LNG import facility? I know they're working on it.
I'm not sure how you describe the commitment, if you will. What we saw in the last month was an announcement that the Hillcorp subsidiary, Harvest, had completed the acquisition of the Marathon Nikiski, what was an export facility, but now could be used for import. And so on one hand, that kind of looks like, well, this looks pretty serious. On the other hand, it's important, as it was explained to me, that the Harvest acquisition of the Marathon facility in Nikiski was actually a very small part of a very big deal that they did with Marathon across the country. So while they picked it up and it is very promising, it doesn't by itself necessitate what's going to happen. But it certainly, from my perspective, is encouraging, because having an existing facility that could be what appears to be fairly easily converted into bringing gas in, as opposed to its original intent of putting gas out, because there's already a marine terminal there for docking ships. There's already piping and all the equipment for being able to handle gas. It's already kind of connected up with gas pipelines. So reversing the flow seems really promising from the standpoint of a ratepayer impact. Because remember, we will, at the end of the day, pay for whatever gets built. There's no magic them that builds all these facilities. So the ability to reuse the facility that's already there for what might be the first few years is attractive. Now, there was an article in the paper a few days ago that suggests that that facility by itself is not enough. And if you do go out 10 years from now, there is concern that the current facility wouldn't meet all of our needs. But I think that's a problem for a slightly different day. It also doesn't talk about whether you could expand the capacity of the current Marathon facility. That was more than you needed.
No, it's good stuff. I appreciate it.
Question, sure.
Yes.
Quick, thank you, Kai. And I'm sure we'll find out, but what is the timeline for CAPSIS for 26?
I'm assuming we're going to try and have that wrapped up around the second week of February, but you probably have that really.
Very short, yeah, second week of February.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say sometime late in January, we ought to kind of all have everyone logged on or submitting stuff so that we can keep pulling it together. And then I'll be working with the senator and we'll be trying to roll up those needs and prioritize them again.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate your point about that.
Did we have any other questions? I do have a quick question, just out of curiosity, on what side people are falling on in the feedback that you're getting about daylight savings.
Oh, well, so roughly 98% of folks want to end the time change.
Okay.
So pretty clear. About 75% in polling want to have standard time.
What is standard time?
Standard time is what we're on today.
Yeah.
It is. And about 25% of the folks want to stay on daylight savings time, which would mean, right, if we were on it today, it would mean we were kind of 1 hour shifted. So we'd have one less hour of light in the morning. Right now, we're getting some light, around 9 o'clock, it's kind of light on the horizons, and 10 o'clock is getting light. Well, it'd shift so that we'd be starting to see a little bit of light, 10, maybe 11 would get a little brighter at that point. But, you have to kind of look at the whole year. This really affects what's going on in January, February, March. the in-between part. It's really easy to think about, well, winter solstice, summer solstice, what does it matter? But it makes a big difference between the two. But I will say, though, that in terms of vocal feedback, there's a very strong movement in the part of the recreation outdoor visitor industry to stay on daylight savings time. They want the evening hours. They're perfectly happy for visitors to get a chance to sleep in the morning. Who needs a morning? Who needs late in the morning? The argument I get is, our kids don't need late in the morning. We need late after school. I've heard, that's why I'm enjoying working on it at this point. But there's a strong, argument that there's a lot of health benefits to being aligned with where the sun is at in the world. And we are, at the end of the day, we're human beings, and the sun and the light and how it impacts us is part of what we really are, despite, setting the alarms. But that's where it falls. I mean, I don't want to be a betting person right now, but I think this one is going to be hard. And it's been this way for decades. So I'm not sure that the world has changed yet.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Good set. Okay. See, for assembly, I don't know if I see either Zach Johnson or Keith McCormick.
Nope.
Okay. I do think I saw Andy Holloman on. Andy Holloman with School Board. Are you on? There you go.
I'm there, yes. I'm just much more familiar with Zoom, I'm afraid. Report from the ASD, it is the start of our budget process, and what we've had is the basic numbers for what we expect in terms of revenue versus expenses if we were to carry the district forward doing the same thing this year as last year. If we do that, we're looking at about a $70 to $80 million shortfall starting in the fall, and we're not sure right now how we're going to make that up. Just to recap real quickly, there was a historic increase in the base student allocation, but almost the equivalent amount of funding outside of the base student allocation went away. So for this current year, we're funded, if you count inflation, a little under what we were budgeted at last year. And if we go forward with the governor's recommendation, we'd be funded at this year's level, and inflation would hit us again, so we would come in a little under. Last year, we took about $70 million in fund balance. That's sort of the cushion in our checking account, tides us over to get through paydays if we're waiting on a check from the state, or if we have an earthquake or something comes up. It's money. We don't put money into that every year, but it just stays as a steady cushion so that we can operate in a reasonable way. We don't have that to put back in it this year. And so we're facing that shortfall, and the results would be pretty dramatic. Quite possibly anything after school, any extra activities would be on the chopping block, and we would still see an increase in class size, in the formula of 2 or 3 or 4, and that actually has a bigger impact on classes than it sounds like. So things are kind of grim right at the moment. We are hoping that the legislature may find a way to give us a cost of living adjustment. We'd love for that to be a regular thing that we can begin to count on. But as Senator Giesel outlined pretty clearly, the legislature has got its hands full with their issues as well. So we're just not sure how that is going to work out. The other thing that we approved is a bond package. The biggest single thing on it was $27 million to go towards ROMIG. Is a design and kind of refurbishing of the whole building. It's got some pretty serious issues, and it's exceptionally under-insulated. The engineer that went through it said there's like 1.5 inches of fiberglass batt in the roof, far less than what I suspect every single person in Girdwood has in their house. And there are just a number of other systems that need to be upgraded. It has been a long time. And the other main items, we will finish out the security vestibules on elementary schools. And we are also in the process of starting what they call access control, where we would gradually be replacing traditional keys with key cards so that doors can be easily locked automatically. If somebody's card is lost, it can be immediately disabled. The district is still using a key shop, I think staffed by 3 people, to make keys, and there's some real problems with that. There's one other little item on there for about $1.5 million, I think, that for some reason the Anchorage School District owns a 70,000 volt line that's buried at East High School. It's about 2 feet deep, so don't ever put a shovel in the ground there, I would recommend. This will bring it up to the correct standard and allow us to give it to Chugach Electric and be done with that completely. That's all the highlights, but happy to take any questions anybody has.
All right, do we have any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you for being here this evening. Does the Anchorage School District have any standing on whether to switch to daylight savings time or standard time?
No.
Good question.
It has not come up. I haven't heard anybody else discuss it, so I'm just going to say no.
That's a very good question. Okay, Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think Brian stole my thunder. Now, I actually had a question about the budget. So I know there's a contract negotiation, the contract discussions with the teachers union coming up as well at the moment. I think that contract's due for renewal. Is the budget projection based on no change or COLA change, or what's it actually based on?
It's based on a moderate change. And off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you exactly what is in there for it. I don't think I'm letting any secrets out to the other bargaining team. It's in the range of 2 or 3%. And the question is, do you put that into salary? Do you put it into insurance benefits? Or are there other things? Because almost everything you change in the contract does have a cost associated with it for one reason or another. Most of the contract has been signed off on, tentative agreement on a lot of the articles, but we're far apart on salary and on health benefits as well. The Public Education Health Trust, which is the insurer of choice by AEA, had a 15% increase. So a lot of teachers, I'm going to say almost all teachers that are covered by it, saw their take-home pay go down this year compared to last year, because right now the contract has expired. We're in what's called dynamic status quo, so it's all the last year of the last contract. So the health insurance benefit is the same, salaries are the same, et cetera, et cetera. AEA started out asking for 15% over 3 years, and we don't have anything like that budgeted, and I don't see where it would come from. Can always go through and find a few more things to eliminate. And I hate to sound like an advocate for administration, but we don't think we have any extra people in payroll. We don't have any extra bus drivers. We don't have any extra cafeteria workers. The building plant operators, our janitorial staff has been cut in past years. So there might be something there, but you're talking a few 100,000 or maybe $1 million if you get lucky. And we're talking more like 20 or 30 million on a recurring basis to meet what they're asking. So it's going to arbitration. I would say there's a distinct possibility of a strike. Part of that's just from the contract disagreement, and part of it is it's not being a very fun job anymore. The class sizes are large. The resources in the classroom are not great. And there's a lot of other options out there for educators. And in particular, people are looking at relocating into the Pacific Northwest into districts that have a lower cost of living and a higher salary than we have, and have a defined benefit retirement. And some of them have both Social Security and a defined benefit. They all have one or the other, and the state of Alaska has neither for teachers. It's grim.
Thank you.
And Crystal, do you have a question?
Yeah, hi, Andy. I'm wondering if, I don't think you would have this information on the top of your head, but I'm wondering if you would be able to report back next month on how much property tax goes to the Anchorage School District from 99587 or from the Girdwood area.
Yeah, I definitely don't know from that area. I will say there has been a significant increase in the property valuation of Anchorage as a whole. And what that does is it raises the mandatory minimum requirement that the municipality has to put in under the base student allocation. And that goes to reduce the state contribution dollar for dollar. So as it stands, you will be paying more, and it will look like you're paying more to the Anchorage School District. And the reality is that amount of money will be subtracted from what the state sends. It goes to how it's long and complicated. And I won't go into it unless someone really wants to hear. But I can try to find that out. That's not something we know on our end of it, but I can ask through the city as well. And I suspect they probably have an idea. It's a percentage of the overall property tax, and it would be the same in Girdwood as it would be in the rest of the city. So I suspect they have a number on how much they collect out of Girdwood and what our share is. I'll see if I can find that out.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? Andy, Helen, thank you so much. Very
thank
informative.
you. Enjoy it very much. Have a great meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Under HLBAC, I don't think Tim Sharnan is online. I do want to point out, make sure everybody knows about the HLBAC meeting and the work plan. GBOS did quite a bit of work on with our work session, our comments about this, and it adds up to one of the most important, if not the most important, HLBAC meeting of the year. Just happens to be the week before Christmas this year. But especially in terms of Girdwood and what happens to our lands, if you want to make sure the whole community is aware of that. All right. Supervisor reports. Should we start with roads?
So what was that?
Do you have anything?
Yeah, we had a PSEC meeting, not too long ago, last week. I can't keep track well. And the biggest thing was that the DOT did complete the speed study on Alyeska Highway as requested. So big thank you to DOT. I kind of wondered if that went into a black hole, and then presto changeo, here comes a really thorough study. So definitely big thanks to them and Sean Holland. And basically, I'll just read the primary finding is the existing 45-mile-an-hour posted speed limit is confirmed to be reasonable and safe on measurements of existing conditions for all users along the roadway and roadside. We also find additional engineering and enforcement countermeasures could be considered if these strategies were put in place. A lower posted speed of 40 miles an hour is possible. We do not recommend 40 miles an hour as safe and effective without additional countermeasures. So the conversation at PSAC was, around that and, the countermeasures possible, like the speed signs, and Kyle pointed out, we need to make sure they go on shore power versus solar power. And they are accepting comments. There's no deadline because it's not some formal process, but if people do want to read it and put comments in, they're asking for them and accepting them. And it's my belief that the board doesn't need to take action formally, but we could do that if people had strong opinions that we should.
All right, thank you. Okay, how about fire?
For the fire department, they have their fourth quarter meeting, and their next meeting is January 13th, which is, I think, the same night as the Safer Stewart Highway meeting. It's their annual board meeting, and I'm sure Chief West anything else we've already talked about, we might talk about more in the agenda. So just all I will add is that in light of holidays and the weather and neighbors, just be kind and look out for other people and just things looking around, looking at a place that people's houses are outside. So.
Anything with trails?
We had our December Trails meeting and at our January Trails meeting, we'll be having elections for new officers.
Okay. And Mike, do you have anything for GHEC?
I think most of the items are coming up later on. I think I think they're coming up either in the reports or in the items of business. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the same is true for LUC. The one thing is I did go to the meetings as requested for FCC. There was a work session and then a regular meeting, and mostly they are working on the bylaws. And if you guys have any questions about it, we can definitely dive into it. I think that will end up coming up in conversation, starting with LUC in the, no worries, in January. Okay. Do we have any committee updates? I think the only committee member or leader I see here is Crystal. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Besides, we do have the HLBAC thing or HLB work plan on the agenda.
Thank you. And is there the Holton Hills item on the agenda? I apologize, I'm driving right now because that ate up the majority of our GHAC meeting and we did make several motions. So if it is on the agenda, I expect those will be addressed. Thanks.
Yes, it is on the agenda under old business item number 9.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, understanding reports, proposed Girdwood developments. I do not believe that we have any news yet on parcel H or GVSA non-property tax funds. Same thing with rules and procedures revisions and STR registration and regulation. Actually, I believe we have that being discussed farther down. So other than that, do we have anything to add? Sorry, Mike, did you have something to add here?
I did have a couple of quick things. Yeah, one on the STR regulations. That is open for public hearing and action probably tomorrow. Tomorrow's assembly meeting, same time as the Girdwood Parks open house. And possibly also the STR tax, although that's unclear. I think they have to make that, the tax has to be done either tomorrow or the first meeting in January. Also, just on the, I guess, on the topic of property taxes, the answer to Crystal's earlier question is $6 million, 1,459 is how much Girdwood paid in property taxes to the school district last year. So almost exactly $6 million. That's available in the budget documents.
All right, thank you, Mike. Okay, service. So
I don't know. Do we need to keep parcel H on that list? I mean, still, there's a hanger going on.
That's a good question. I don't know if we need to keep parcel H. We do. Well, there is a community members are involved in a lawsuit there, but other than that.
But I don't know that it's relevant to the board for standing meetings because it's.
All right, well, we can certainly take it off if it doesn't make sense to have parcel H on anymore. Okay. Service provider reports. Oh, sorry. Bryce.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I really appreciate having the parcel H update on the agenda. I think it's important since it's an ongoing project in the community that has multiple facets to it. So I think it's, in my opinion, I appreciate if GBOS kept it on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you, Bryce. Moving on to service provider reports. I know I see Chief Weston has been out, and oh, there she is. Hold on.
Hi there. If you could just pull up our slides, Kyle, that would be great. Oh, there they go. Okay. Hello. So for us, for November, it's really vehicle accident season. We've responded in November to 14 vehicle accidents. that trend has continued into December. We had 11 medical calls, 4 alarms, mostly fire alarms. 4 other assistance calls, those would be citizen assistance, and also includes like lift assists. We had a gas leak, and then we had 2 assaults that we responded to. I noticed on Whittier's stats, it looks like 1. We responded to 2, and then when we move into December, we also responded to a few assaults at the beginning of December. So just something to be aware of. Supervisor Sullivan talked about, be kind to each other. I think that, when we hit the dark months, we do tend to see a little bit more emotions, and especially as we get into the holiday season, there's a lot of family dynamics that go on. So just for everyone to be aware that patience and grace and not getting into altercations is usually, it takes a lot of effort, but it's not worth having problems with your family. And then if we move to the next slide. Just a reminder, happy holidays from us. And a reminder to keep your Christmas trees waters and check your smoke detectors and CO detectors as you're putting up Christmas decorations. If you want to join us as a board member, our board is expanding and looking for opportunities to add 2 or 3 possibly new board members. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Chief Weston. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, or from general public or online? All right. Thank you so much for the report.
Okay, thank you.
For police, Chief O'Shea.
Good evening. For November, we had calls for service in the Girdwood service area was 156 calls for service, of which 102 of them were security checks in the area. Whittier had 76, of which 44 was security checks. Generally, as I stated to the PSAP meeting as well, our security checks is when officers have downtime. They'll be rattling doors, checking different public areas as well as road areas and businesses. Our main call, or not main call, one more serious calls we had at the end of November. It's actually Thanksgiving morning. We had a serious assault call, which officers responded to, as well as contacted APD for assistance. We gave them a description of the subject and stuff like that. They were able to contact the subject northbound on Seward Highway, and we provided them enough information and authorized them for the arrest of that subject for a felony assault. We'd like to thank APD because they did immediately respond for agency assist, and they have been doing that anytime we needed their assistance. Other calls we've had, we just increase our security checks as well as traffic stops in certain areas for traffic control in targeted areas, Alberg, Timberline, as well as Alyeska. A couple of things that's going on right now, starting tomorrow. Whittier Police Department is hosting a 2-day, what's called an alert training. It's a federal training sponsored by the FBI. Alert is an acronym, stands for Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. It's a national-based training program, so a lot of the agencies, not only Lower 48, but in Alaska as well, are playing off the same sheet of music when it comes to tactics on entries. So if we do have an emergency critical response and other agencies, troopers, or other state agencies in the area that respond, all of us are trained the same way to make tactical and safe approaches in specific areas. The FBI is going to be teaching that class starting tomorrow here in Whittier, where we have other partners with the state that's going to also be in attendance to that class, a 2-day training. We look forward to that class. A couple other things we started instituting. We were able to acquire what's called a LiDAR system. It's a laser radar system that's more accurate for speed gauging, as well as the distance provided for targeted vehicle enforcement. Officers have been, I would say about 9% of my officers have been now certified on the LiDAR, and we'll be slowly starting the implementation of the LiDAR for speed enforcement in Girdwood as well as in Whittier. Other than that, November, we also had Coffee with the Cops at the Grind. I'd like to thank Tommy O'Malley for help facilitating that. And we had a good turnout for the community as well as the public, or as well as the officers. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Also, tomorrow, the city of Whittier will be looking at the contract proposal for the 2-year extension of the Girdwood Police Service contract. So I'll be in attendance in Whittier for that council meeting as well. Again, if you have any questions, I'm open to any questions you may have.
You have any questions from the board? Yeah, Brian.
Chief Boucher, Brian Burnett here. Thank you for being here this evening. Regarding the assistance from the Anchorage Police Department recently, will we be receiving any sort of an invoice from Anchorage Police on this? I seem to recall that we had a deposit for any sort of major case incidents with the police contract. And I'm wondering if this falls into that or if this is regular cooperation from Anchorage Police Department.
I don't believe we'll be receiving or Girdwood would be receiving a bill. Quite frequently, Anchorage contacts Whittier Police to do agency assists for them as well on the Seward Highway distressed vehicles, things of that nature. And it's basically a mutual aid, unwritten mutual aid agreement. We assist them as needed, especially for any critical incidents, and they've done the same for us, as well as any type of investigative assistance when we're dealing with certain types of offenses where they have specialty in, or child advocates for interviewing, stuff like that. I do not recall they've assisted us in the past as we have assisted them. Kyle probably be the best person to ask if they've ever sent Girdwood a bill for any of this assistance.
No, they don't. And we've had, like you said, we've had major crime investigation. They've helped us with that. And they verbally have said that over the years that they will continue to provide that support. I think what you may be thinking about is in District 15, which is the areas outside of Girdwood, turning an arm. They have areas that basically have no dedicated police enforcement. They pay an annual property tax that basically is a reserve to use for major incidents. So, so if it requires a major incidents response, that allows for those officers to respond to those areas from APD only. So
that must be what it is. I was
Yes.
confused with.
Yeah, we don't have anything
Contract.
directly that we pay or any deposit with APD.
Thank you for that.
All right, Mike, you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a comment really. First of all, I'd like to, typically when there's a signing of the contract at Whittier, it's nice if one or two members of GBOS are there. I'm unable to make it tomorrow. It's actually also being signed at the Assembly or approved at the Assembly, hopefully tomorrow. I don't know which will be first. But I was just going to ask if anyone is available to go over to Whittier. It might be a nice gesture. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that.
Yeah, sorry, at PSAC, they said that you were going to be there, so I didn't.
Mike's going to be at the Assembly meeting. So just to
The
give
Assembly, yeah.
going on tomorrow is that the contract right now is in front of both the Whittier City Council and the Assembly for them to consider and approve. And if they approve, then this contract will be signed by each respective city manager. So they're both happening on the same night. Mike will be attending the Assembly. So he's asking if anybody would want to attend and just be present for the Whittier Council one.
What time do we anticipate that would be?
Andre, can you tell us, do you have an idea what time they might start and consider that? Andre, you might be, did you hear that question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yes, I heard that question. The council meeting starts at 7 p.m. It's under new business for resolution approval. I would guess it will probably come up around 8 p.m.
I'm wondering if I send them
So-
to you, maybe you could print them out, right?
Hey, Michelle, can you mute real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I would guess by about 8 p.m. it'll probably start being discussed tomorrow, but the council meeting starts at 7, so it's about halfway through.
Andre, what's time's the last tunnel out of Whittier?
Last tunnel will be 10 o'clock, I believe. The last tunnel into Whittier is 10:30. I believe the last tunnel is going to be 10 o'clock. I'll double check that because it could. They have summer and winter schedules. I know as of today when I checked, last tunnel into Whittier is at 10:30. Probably, I'm guessing the last tunnel out would be at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock.
Confirm that right now, but yeah, that would be the case.
A little tough with the Parks planning meeting being tomorrow as well. It's a busy night for week before Christmas, whatever that holiday is.
Solstice.
Right. You weren't supposed to hear all that, sorry. Okay. Thank you, Chief O'Shea. Do we have any other questions for the chief? Okay. Kyle.
Sure. Let me scroll down. Try to skim through this because I know so I have quite a few things to get through tonight, but coming up on Sunday, December 21st is the Solstice 5K Nordic Ski Club event for celebrating Solstice Night there. And it's a great night to come out and get out there. And so they put on a great event. So come on out for that. And we do appreciate them hosting and putting that on every year. We are right now in the process with the Girdwood Facebook page, Parks and Rec Facebook page, of acknowledging the many people and groups that have been really helpful to our parks over the years, and especially in the last year. So if you are on Facebook and you do get a chance to check it out, and please share it. There's some great volunteers and groups out there who have done a lot for our trails and our parks over the last year, and we just want to recognize them that way in that aspect. Always a reminder, no cutting Christmas trees on municipal lands. So a lot of people got the 5K, look to cut trees, and we purposely plant trees out there to actually rebuild the buffer. And so we don't want those trees cut out. U.S. Forest Service does allow it, and there's details in the report about where you can go do that and get that figured out. And as always, we said the master plan is tomorrow night, so we hope people can come out and give input on the great feedback and the potential ideas there are for the parks moving through out there. We are working through the end of season grants and getting ready for our projects for next year. And so we have updates on our grants in here as you go through, and you can see all the different things. And then what our park and amenities, what are open and closed. It's pretty obvious right now. We're definitely winter operations out there, so you'll see that. And thank you to Margaret for always keeping our social media and websites up to date. Actually sat in a LRSA meeting tonight, and I was listening to the other LRSAs because there's many LRSAs throughout the municipality, and they were complaining about how they don't know how to get to their websites and how to control it. So Girdwood is well ahead of where they're at. So I do appreciate all the hard work there Margaret puts in, and plus links here. We have links here to all the different things that keeps you up to date on the state and local level. And along those lines. So after switching over the roads, after unseasonably long, warm stretch of beginning of winter, we moved right into deep cold, and we have not seen much for activity, so things have been quiet. But now we're starting to experience, and what we'll be doing this week is we're starting to see quite a significant icing building. And so we're going to have to get the steam truck out and start icing or cutting grooves to get things open and make sure the flow is getting back down and it's not starting to cause issues, especially in the residential areas. So we'll be working on that going into it. But this weather looks like it's here for a bit, so we'll see how long it lasts. And then when it breaks, we'll deal with that, what comes in. So in that area. So major updates on some different things. On the Ruan road fish culvert replacement, we are just finishing some of the final language to make sure we meet the federal requirements, and then we're putting a RFP, a request for proposal for design and engineering services, out at the beginning of January. And so that will get us started on the design process for what we need to build there to replace the existing culverts there. So that process will start most likely in March, after we get through a bidding process and then contract negotiations, things like that. And then looking at a construction in 2027 at this point. And then the Winter Creek Trail Bridge at Glacier Creek Crossing, this is basically the replacement of the hand trap crossing there. We're looking to put that on the market for bid in January. We're going to see what happens. It's been really difficult to get a solid price on things because of such volatility in steel prices with the tariffs and supply and demand. So we need to put that out there and see where it goes. So we look to do that in early January as well. And so we'll have two items going out beginning in 2026 in that aspect. We've been catching up on billing with our contractor, Western, and we're up to date. We should be getting a November bill soon, but we're well within our budget for this year. We didn't get as much work done in the summer due to availability of the contractor, but we did get quite a few SNCC projects done. And then outside of that, we did the large fish culvert passage down on Alias Creek at Davos. So there was quite a bit of work done this year, but just the lack of staffing for their team and the severity of projects that have been backed up since COVID, we got through what we could with them this year. And so we will be, but we always keep a reserve for November and December, and it's been very light. We had a very busy sanding season so far, but only one plow out so far for snow removal. So we're hoping we get a little bit more snow here before end of year, but we'll see what happens at this point. But budget wise, we're where we need to be at this point, and well within our boundaries for this year. For roads, same for parks. What we haven't seen a lot yet is the IGCs that we get charged haven't been charged yet. So that sort of throws our budgets off until those get charged out. But we're getting through where we are for mostly all our department budgets at this time of year. We're looking in good shape at this point. So so as you can see there, that covers everything. So if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, do we have any questions from the board? We're online. Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle, for all of the thorough reporting. For the IGC work session, do you think that's going to happen anytime before January? I mean, actually not, probably not. It's the other. When do you think that meeting will
I think it's at the will of the board. I think we haven't actually nailed that down as to when we want to do that.
Oh, I thought it was with Ona Brown and maybe you and Chief West. Not GBOS.
No, I think it was to be a GBOS meeting with Ona Browse.
Okay.
And maybe some of those other players as well. And I've reached out to the co-chairs and I haven't heard anything about when they would like to schedule it. And I've also been aware that Ona is probably on to other things right now. So.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
So it's waiting action from the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Colin. On library, Katarina did ask me to point out the vision board workshop on Friday, January 9th, the cookie swap on January 10th. There's a lot going on at the library. Family movie nights on January 16th and the 23rd. They don't advertise that, but you can call and find out what the title is. And then this author talk is kind of a new thing. I haven't seen this before. I don't think Saturday, January 24th at 1 p.m. They've got Lori Townsend, who some of you might remember from NPR. And I've met her and talked to her about her books. It's pretty exciting what she's doing. David Brown and Lois Simonson. I don't know her as Lolo Page, but anyway, that's an exciting thing to have here January 24th at 1 p.m. So that's that. All right. Public comment. Persons offering public comment must state their full name and address. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person and must be on subjects not listed on the agenda. Do we have anyone here for public comment tonight? No, I don't see anybody. Okay, then we're moving on to old business. We have the GBOS resolution on the 50th anniversary of the MOA unification. That is in the meeting packet.
Yes.
Brian, it looks like you guys updated the therefores, but largely left the whereases as they were.
Question if anyone will move it or we can discuss it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Right. Let me entertain a motion to approve this.
Well, I'll second.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Brianna, please.
Okay, well, since it was so quiet, I was just gonna ask if Jennifer, you made any of your edits? Or are they on here?
No.
Okay.
Cool.
What happened to them?
People delayed. Do we have any other comments or suggestions, or are we good to move this, or how is the
Did you
board?
have edits that you still wanted to add? Because we've talked about them.
Yes, we did, and I did not submit them. I had a question to, I had on my list of questions is I didn't know whether to discuss it as a board or to submit on my own. And so on my own, I did not have. I would say one thing, like if I just right off the cuff, I would delete whereas 2, 3, and 4. I think that they are implied within, I think that it's covered basically with 1 and 5, and I just think we don't need them. But we don't need to hash this out. This is, I think the most important thing in this paper is definitely the whereases, and I really appreciate the work that Mike and Brian did in putting that together. It is a bit of a policy statement. I will just note that this did not end up going through LUC, and it does kind of state our opinion. I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm just saying it could have gone through LUC because it is making statements about the direction for the community of Girdwood.
Did Mike or Brian comment as to what's not going through LUC, just an oversight or a conscious decision, or what was the thought there?
Possibly also we just, else didn't choose to send it there.
Yeah, I didn't think about it.
Gotcha, just curious.
Definitely not a conscious decision.
Yeah.
I would have almost thought it had gone through, but I can't remember. I don't remember it being discussed. I think we just assumed it did somehow. Magic happens when you have great stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess I would speak to the authors of this. What would you like to see happen? Would you like, and how are you feeling about the timeline it's on and everything else? Would you like us to run this through LUC? Would you like to just take this forward? I want to speak to the authors here.
I'm not sure what the time restrictions are. When's our report due?
What do you think, Mike?
It's not critical in terms of time, but we're kind of, there's a window and we're kind of towards the end of that window. It's sort of fading away. The point of this is to look back over the last 50 years and to look forward. And that's definitely a 2025 issue, not a 2026 issue. So I have a slight preference for moving it today if we can. I don't think this is a secret, and it's definitely been discussed. We've discussed it multiple times. It's definitely a drop off that we didn't explicitly bring it to LUC. We should have done.
I'm going to agree with Mike. I'm going to say we had this on the agenda 3 times now, and plenty of time for comment. And I think we've able to accommodate a few comments, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't know that we were thinking about considering shortening it up further to get rid of whereas 2, 3, and 4.
That is fine. I will say that I should have suggested these things earlier, and it just is something that slipped through the cracks. And I don't think it's critical. So
one thing I would add is we did discuss changing the language for the therefore number 4 to take out the explicit mention of a municipal department. So last time, I can't remember the exact language. I think we may have proposed some specific language, but the essence was number 4 would become adjusting the municipal administrative organization to allow Girdwood Valley to manage land. And not actually have the explicit mention of the municipal department.
That's right. I do remember that.
I think we said that something to the effect that it could be a department, but any entity that it would allow. And I do think that's important. Like, saying that it needs to be an entity that can manage land, and then give them a suggestion so that we're not asking them
Yes.
to come up on their own. So however,
Yeah,
I think that is a modification we should make before we approve it. I don't know if somebody has better language. I don't.
Okay,
I
so
will
we
make an
need,
attempt. I will make an
Thank you,
attempt at
Brett.
proposing an amendment to therefore number 4. I'd say to adjust the municipal administrative organization to allow Girdwood Valley to manage land owned by the municipality, or to allow the service area to manage land within Girdwood Valley owned by the municipality, such as making Girdwood Valley Municipal Department or similar.
I'll second that.
Okay, is this clear for our recorder here?
I'll try and say that slowly. To adjust the municipal administrative organization to make GVSA, or to allow GVSA to manage land within Girdwood Valley owned by the municipality, and then such as making GVSA a municipal department. When it's on the screen, there might be an obvious grammar mistake, but that's the essence of it.
Okay. I'm passing that in spirit. Okay, so do we have any discussion about, we've had the motion and that's seconded. Do we have any discussion about that change? And do we have any disagreements or, sorry, do we have anyone opposed to that change? Okay, so we're going to accept that by assent, and then moving on to, are we ready to vote on this, moving this forward? Okay, let's do roll call on that.
Okay, Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Ryan Burnett,
Yes.
Kelly Alkanek,
Yes.
and Jennifer Weinkartz.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you so much to Brian and Mike. It was a novella and much appreciated, and ended up taking us into a really interesting place. So thank you. All right, discuss increase in permit fees for Girdwood Parks and Recreation Resources. Mr. Bryant.
So haven't really made much progress on this beyond what staff has recommended in the first place. And seeing how we have a modest increase suggestion for the community room charges going from $10 an hour to $20 an hour. And then really no changes in the pavilion or park use or other fees. I'd like to make a motion that we move with the recommendation of staff.
I'll second.
Okay, we have motion second. Any comments?
I have a comment.
Oh, sorry, let me do Brianna first and then
Yep.
Mike. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, staff, for your recommendation on this. And many months ago, the research as well. I did not have very many conversations about this, but I was curious if Four Valleys had, so I did not ask them, a minimum for, well, I know they have a minimum for how many students to have. So I was wondering if it would be too much work to have a sliding scale if they only had 4 students, but not 3 students. And that would be the only thing I would offer if it was a really small class. But then they would maybe find their own solution to the price increase by bumping up a minimum. And that's just what organizations probably do. But I just wanted to offer that from the community I did speak.
I thought we had a special arrangement for Four Valleys.
No.
Okay.
Four Valleys currently is probably not as big a renter of the community room as you might think. Post-COVID, we have had a lot of other exercise and such programs that have come in. I have talked to most of the consistent cyclical users, and they've been pretty supportive, including an email I got this morning from one of our renters who rents twice a week, and said, yeah, that sounds great. So, and still sees it as a good value. So, I mean, I am we're already flexible beyond what the rental agreement says that we will do with regard to refunding and times. So I think we remain really flexible. And this wouldn't be enacted immediately. I think if you take action on it now, though, it allows us to move forward earlier into 2026. But it's going to be probably 3 months before some of those cyclical renters who we count on will be paying that fee because they're already paid up.
I really appreciate that, Margaret. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Mike?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the changes, the recommended changes for the community room and the campground. I was wondering in terms of the Marlow Pavilion, I know there was discussion about simplifying it. Is there a proposal to increase but simplify? Because I would probably support that rather than leave it as is.
So looping back on the campground to start off with, we're not looking at making a change to that.
Yeah. Understood.
Okay. And then as far as the pavilion goes, you know, at first I was looking at how other places charge for it, and there's, you know, really just 2 options. And I thought, ooh, maybe that would be handy. But I do know that we have several groups that use the 65, you know, for the 4-hour rental. And we see them cyclically through the summer. So I feel like it allows us with the shorter term there to potentially put several groups in, and then we're making more than we probably would be if we just had a maximum of 2 potential. So I sort of went back on my own thinking on that.
Okay.
So to clarify sorry, but could I just ask one follow-up question on that one, and then I'll return back to you. Just to clarify, the current staff recommendation on this is leave as is.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
That's where I landed.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to suggest rather than leave as is, then if the structure makes sense, then just increase the numbers a little bit. So, for example, $80 for 4 hours, 120 for 100 for 4 to 8, and 120 for 8+. So we're just making I think the campground makes sense to leave it as is, but the community room and pavilion, I think we could definitely justify slightly higher fees because they're so much lower than anything else.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that as a motion. Yeah. And I'm just
Okay.
interested in people's opinions. I'm not going to die on this hill, but so I'm going to suggest we change, go with the increase of $20 now for the community room, keep the campground as is at $10 a night, and then increase Marlow Pavilion to $80 for 4 hours, $100 for 4 to 8 hours, and $120 for 8 hours plus.
Second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion about that? All right. Well, let me try this. Do we have any disagreement with that?
I don't have a disagreement. I just don't know comparisons to other pavilions. So I don't have a,
It's right there.
Right.
Still lower than other pavilions.
oh, Goose Lake. I see. Okay.
Abbott and Goose Lake.
That's why I was, okay.
Thank you. Okay.
That makes more sense.
So are we comfortable with approving that amendment by assent, or would we like, does anyone disagree? All right, then we're going with assent on this, and then,
Just a question on the
Yes.
main one. Trail permit, is that no change or is that adding a new fee?
No change.
No change.
Okay, so no change on trail permit, park use, fixed vendor in town square and Fields Court. Those are all no changes.
Correct.
Correct. I didn't have any research on what other areas were doing with that, so I didn't put any other information there or make a recommendation.
okay, so if we're comfortable with moving to a vote, I would like to do this one roll call too, just since it's kind of a budget item.
Sure. Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
No,
It's something that has been under discussion for a while, so it's nice to see that done. That feels good. Okay. Agenda item LUC 2407-04, review LUC response to GBOS resolution of support 2025-19 regarding the municipal STR tax proposal. This one, I think, might not actually need to be discussed because LUC did end up voting at the last meeting and decided that they did agree with GBOS. So we no longer have a disagreement between the two organizations. They hadn't voted on exactly the same thing before. So now they have, and unless anyone has anything else they want to discuss with that, I think we can move on to the next item. Okay. Agenda item LUC 2510-05, Holton Hills Development, conditional use permit for planned use development. Mike, would you like to take this?
Yeah, I sent it rather late today, but I took this language from GHCC and GTC and created two resolutions. One is basically complete. It has a few whereas statements and the housing related items from GHEC. And then the other one doesn't have any whereas statements. I need a little bit of help with that. But then has the therefores from GTC and for the road. So I don't know if I sent it to both you and Kyle and Margaret. I don't know if you have that available. If not, I can probably display it from here. They're both very short.
Yeah, we just saw it came in, so I'll give you the screen, and if you want to display, you can run it.
Okay, just 1 second.
I did not see that come in. I don't have that.
Sorry about this. I'm just having to make some changes on my screen.
I'll do a little bit of background here. So
yeah, sure.
This was discussed. The GHEC recommended changes and the trails recommended changes were discussed at land use. Land use ended up approving all of the changes and recommendations from both committees. And so this has been through now the individual subcommittees and land use, and now it's coming to us. And so, Mike, if I understand what you're saying correctly, is you just basically put this into resolution form based on what had passed at the committees and at LUC. Is that correct?
Yeah, I rearranged the language very slightly, merged a couple of things, and then split it into two resolutions. So one resolution is about trails and the road, which I think made sense, and the other one focuses on housing. So this is the housing one. So again, the format, it isn't completely in the letterhead and everything else, and there might be some slight tweaks to language, but the essence of this is it says, it reiterates our commitment to the need for occupied community housing. There's a couple of whereases. Most of these are taken from other resolutions. The first one is just reminding the Anchorage Assembly that they actually, in their policy proposals for housing, policy priorities for housing, they identified that increasing the share of resident occupied housing throughout the year and reducing the number of vacant units was one of their policies, one of their goals. Then a couple of our sort of standard whereas is about how little of our housing is actually occupied, how much of it is dark. The fourth whereas is just pointing out again, this is a what the application is, the planning case 2026-005, and then the meat of it, which is the therefores. So the first therefore just reiterates that best and highest use Holton Hills development is to actually have people living in it. And then these are the four of the these are the resolutions which were passed, or these are the motions which were passed at GHEC, except for the road one, which I put into the other resolution. So conditional use permit only to be approved after land use study has been completed. Add a plat note to lots 12 and 13 in block 1, requiring their transfer to Girdwood non-profit for development of community housing, and then reference to the AO. Adding a plat note to 3 lots. These are 3, I think, at the beginning of the development, restricting them to two-family only, so not single-family. And then the last one is the meaty one, which is requiring all future conveyances for 4 lots, which planning and zoning can specify, to have 30-year, I said 30-year restriction. I think it was actually 20 originally, so it could be 20 or 30. Covenants. I think it's unlikely that this will pass, but we can absolutely should ask for it. This is the sort of thing which other communities do. So this is basically saying that out of all of the housing they're building, 4 units or 4 lots would be restricted to basically primary residences only. They can't be second homes or full-time short-term rentals or anything else. Primary homes are people who work in Girdwood.
Just a quick clarification on the documentation we have from GHAC. It's a 20-year restrictive covenant, and then there
It
you
says
said-
20. Yeah, we said 20 or 30, and I wrote 30 down because that's the same length as for example, the low-income housing tax credits in Creekside. It doesn't matter, 20 or 30. I'm happy with 20.
I was just wondering what why the discrepancy?
We started discussing at GHEC and we didn't really, I think we were quite late in the meeting, so there wasn't a much discussion about 20 or 30. I don't mind if it says 20, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the first thereas to match the language from the GHEC, which is that we recommend that the use permit be denied pending completion of a land use study as required by Anchorage Municipal Code. I think
okay,
it's stronger.
It's the same thing, but yeah, same language.
It's stronger language, and I think we say, listen, until it's done, don't approve it. So I think we should use the word denied.
That's fine.
Okay, so
was that a second then?
Or
If I
that's
motioned and then you said.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's, in that sense, it falls under friendly amendment. Do we have any objections to that? Okay, so I'm going to say that passes by assent.
Has the letter been moved yet?
The letter, I understood the letter to be moved. Mike moved it and Kelly seconded.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, great.
That's my understanding.
Reading.
Yes, and would you have additional comments you'd like to make?
I do have great gratitude for Brooks for bringing forth all of these motions at GHEC and lots of research. I did have a question for the body about that. Number one, therefore, is that if I just don't know what you mean by that, if then we want 2, 3, and 4. Like this is nothing if number 1 happens. Or is
Well, I think I can speak to that. I think it's saying it's not approved, and that's why I changed the language to not approved until. So it would be denied until this condition is met. So it's basically a deny, delay, not approve until. They're all essentially the same thing. But I agree with you. The language was a bit more the language seemed more consistent if we're asking for conditions that we say delay it until. Maybe delay is better than deny. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters that much.
No, because I said deny pending approval of, so I think it's fine. And I just think we need to stand in the position that we're a no until they follow the rules. Kids, we have laws. That's what we're supposed to do, is follow them. Thank you very much.
I do appreciate, Mike, you're tempering the hopes on this a little bit, but I also agree with you that it's important that we make these asks. As I say, the answer is always no if you don't ask, right? So I would appreciate your work on this, and Brooks Chandler that works in GHEC. Does anyone else have any further comments about either the whereases or the therefores and any part of this? Do we have any comments about any other parts of this? All right, are we comfortable voting? I would like a roll call vote on this as well.
Sure. Brian Burnett?
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan?
yes.
Kelly Ocknick?
Yes.
Mike Edgington?
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
And it'll take me a second just to get the other one.
All right, so as Mike was saying, this next one is focusing on trails and roads. And I know the Trails Committee was particularly interested in the protection for Middle Iditarod.
Yeah.
So I do not have any whereases for this. So this is not complete, and I suspect we should go through the 24-hour reconsideration process for this one. But GBO's resolution opposing the variance for private road and requesting conditions on planning case 2026-005 regarding the Middle Iditarod Trail. So here, first therefore is we oppose the requested variance for private road. And the second one is that the development partners pay for these three items. I merged in, there were actually two different motions. I've merged the language together here, hopefully in the correct way. So it establishes realignment of the Girdwood Middle Iditarod National Heritage Trail through phase 1 in consultation with Girdwood Valley Service Areas. Platting of the realigned trail with a 25 non-disturbance easement either side of the centre line and any resulting trail improvements in accordance with established practices.
I move that we approve this.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Do we have any comments about this? I see.
So we need the 24-hour rule, right? Because we need whereases.
Right,
I would really appreciate somebody's help, probably Brian,
I'll
to
get,
just
I'll
provide
check
some
in and get
whereases.
them out. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So just to provide the appropriate context, and then I think this can go. It may need a verb in the third bullet point as well.
And Brianna, did you have something you wanted to add?
I had one follow-up. I was waiting because you mentioned road. There was a motion that, and thank you for your work on this, that GHEC passed a motion to ask for Chief Weston's input on a cul-de-sac. Whatever came of that
Yes.
question.
Yeah, I didn't think that was something we could really put in a that was asking us to get input. And I did not follow up on that, but it's not something we would put in a resolution to the planning department or to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. Okay. That's totally fair. I just didn't have an answer myself, so I was curious if there was one. And this is.
I think there was there was also a question about what the maximum length is in Girdwood for a I think it's 500 feet or 450 feet for the maximum length of a cul-de-sac. But that's something you can testify to when it goes in front of planning and zoning, because they will have to follow the code there, or at least have to know what the code is.
Actually, if I could just take a moment so we don't lose track of that thought. Do we still have Chief Weston online, or is she?
She is not.
Oh, she is not. Okay, all right. Maybe we can make a note, bring that around to the next meeting so that we have that possibly as a subtitle under checking in from our fire report. Let's add that we request input regarding the public safety concerns for the cul-de-sac. Can we do that for next month's agenda? Now, I know that that's not on this, but I would agree with Mike that doesn't necessarily belong in this resolution. So as long as we follow up on that, thank you, Brianna, for the attention to detail.
Sure. I agree. It doesn't belong on this. And the very quick answer I did get was that I don't think they make comments to planning and zoning about the cul-de-sac or something like that. But I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other discussion about this resolution?
While I appreciate what Mike has done here with this, is it at all possible to switch over to 3 resolutions? And to just have, so we have one on housing, we have one on trails, and we have one on the road. I'm
Like the private road?
yeah, the private road. I'm wondering if we get pushback on one area, if it jeopardizes another, whether it's pushback on the road or pushback on trails. I wouldn't want to see one jeopardize the other.
Personally, I don't think it's it's likely to jeopardize the trails condition, but I take your point. The reason I split it up is because the whereases for the whereases for housing is distinct from the whereases for access and trails. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with making it 3 if somebody else wants to provide some whereases for the road argument.
So sorry, is that Crystal? Did I see Crystal?
Yes, it is. So I would maybe recommend splitting it into 3s, just because I see the private road issue is totally different from trails. But also the private road is the only thing that I voted against in GHEC, just because I wasn't convinced that that was a hill I wanted to die on kind of thing. And also I think that the private road might be something that I might need if moving forward on a community-led development in order to lower the cost to do so. And I also think that Spinell used the private road scenario in getting 11 homes on that tract of land by Cabana Land, the new tract. So I think it's a tool that could be used to help the cost of development. So I didn't want to vote against it for this project, but then later ask for it. So that was my reasoning for why I voted no on that issue. So I just thought I'd voice that here too.
Is anybody opposed to breaking it into 3?
I couldn't hear you.
I said, is anybody opposed to breaking it into 3? I think there's broad support to do it and some value to do it. So I'm just curious if there's anybody who thinks we shouldn't, because otherwise it seems like an easy decision.
So let's do this formally for the sake of the record keeping. Brian, may I take your suggestion as a motion to break them up into 2 parts?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and then that's seconded, and then
I will second the motion to bifurcate. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. And then do we have any opposed to that, or can I take it by assent that we are agreed to that split? Okay. Now, do we have any further discussion on, let's do this separately. Do we have any further discussion on the roads portion of this? So now we have a motion.
Should we approve the trails one first, since now we've split them?
Oh, you want to do trails first?
Well, it seems like we have complete definitely
Okay, great.
complete on trails.
Let's do trails.
We're going to do the 24-hour thing.
Yes. Yes. So we have an understanding that the whereases are still going to be written, and we have these therefores, and we'll have the 24-hour period in which we all review. And if there are any objections, then it goes up for a revote.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So what I want to do right now is vote on just and let's do a roll call vote just on the trails portion.
Sure. Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Warengard.
Yeah.
That motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to the roads. Do we have any further discussion about the roads? And again, we'll have new wherefores, and this is our therefore. Where new
I would like to ask who feels comfortable to help me provide some whereas language for the roads. I can do it, but I'd like some help.
Well, we also have a comment. Let me get the comment from Brianna, and then we will.
It's similar to, it's the same subject as what Mike's saying, is that someone needs to help for that new bifurcated letter. And if this is time sensitive, I was just voicing slight concern of because I thought the comments were due today, but they were going to give us till tomorrow. But maybe I'm wrong on that. So if someone needs to help on the roads, I mean, we don't need it really long, but is it due tomorrow?
Yeah, it's yep, but we can get it in. Like, if you can get it in the next couple of days, we can get it in.
Okay. That's all I was concerned about.
Okay, so we have an agreement that, sorry, yes, Brian.
I am not entirely up to speed on the plans for this cul-de-sac. And I am curious if our resolution on this cul-de-sac is going to tie our hands on any future cul-de-sacs in the town here. We have several pieces of property, whether it be South Townside or Alyeska Village or Tanner Circle or anything like that, that are cul-de-sacs, and that that developers and builders are going to be looking for variances on. There could be community-led development organizations that are looking for variances on cul-de-sacs as we come forward. So I definitely want to proceed with caution here, that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
Can I just give a little comment on this one, because it's an interesting one. So what the developer is asking here is to not have this be municipal owned right away. It would be privately owned road, would probably be part of a homeowners association. And so they would take all responsibility for the development, or the responsibility for maintenance and snow removal and management of that road. The Housing and Economic Committee felt that that should be a public road. And I think one reason is that they feel it might be underbuilt, and it may not be accessible for fire and things along those lines. So there's some pros and cons to this, in the sense that if what's being asked right now is that becomes a public road, so that becomes a taxpayer responsibility for both maintenance and future capital expenses. But if it stays a private road, then it becomes the responsibility of the homeowner association to take care of it, which then allows for them to be able to build outside of the standards. They still have some standards, they have requirements they have to do, but they don't have to build to the standards the muni is going to require to build a municipal owned road.
Question, if I may. Would a private road be allowed to be gated?
Probably, but the complexity of running a gated road in the winter and things along those lines, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, you know, in that aspect. So, so I think that was a big conversation topic in the housing economic, that this private gated road. But as to where the gates work and operate within it, that'd be it's unknown.
Yes.
I don't want to cut off Mike, but Brooks is online and he might have some idea further, but I'm sure what Kyle said was.
Mike, did you, would you be all right if we come to Brooks, or did you have
Okay,
something?
well, can I just make a quick comment on this?
Sure,
So
sure.
this is not this is not asking for a variance on standards, on the construction of the standards. That's implicit. They will vary from the standards, but this is basically pulling it completely out of the public space and making it a private road. And then once it's a private road, they can do the other. They can just build it to a different standard. But if it would, they could also ask for a variance on a public road. But that is not the path they're using. And I think my concern is also that if it's a private road, access can be limited and restricted in various ways, and that is a very different. It's a significant change to the nature of the community. I think once you start having, gated property and private roads. I mean, I know there are private roads in the community now, but it's not to the same scale.
If I may, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Brooks, if you are willing, would you be willing to speak to this? Because I know that you were the original suggester of this.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so the two issues, the one is the cul-de-sac, but that's the one where the committee basically said, recommended that the board check with the chief on whether there's public safety issues. I mean, this private road is also a cul-de-sac, but I don't think it exceeds the length restriction. So my concerns are, one, it's 10 feet narrower. I mean, at least as they proposed it in their application, it would be a 50-foot right of way instead of a 60-foot right of way. Second, that it would, because this is the phase 2 with the larger lots that are probably going to be the higher cost lots, that it, to me, I had the sense that it was sort of the nose under the tent to have a gated road and restrict access, which may not even be true, but I mean, it just seemed like that could be where it would end up. The other issue, I thought, they're proposing that the homeowners association bear the cost of maintaining it. It's my understanding that the homeowners association is going to include every single lot. So if the people below the road are contributing to maintaining this road, that's going to increase the expense of owning a house in those lower or initial phases of the development, those smaller 7,000 square foot lots. They didn't say that it was only going to be the property owners that were adjacent to this actual private road that were going to contribute to it. And that may be, I mean, they may have been imprecise in describing what's going on, but at least as it's in the application, that's kind of what it says, that the homeowners association is going to pay for it. And they're proposing that every single lot is in the homeowners association. And it's also like, I mean, I just think if we got roads in this town, I mean, I think everyone should contribute to maintaining public road. I mean, the school bus, is the school bus going to go up there or not? And how do you deal with police responses when you got a private road? I've run into that issue before in other communities. And to me, it's like, why do it? You know, so that's kind of was my thinking on it. And I can't really speak for everyone on the committee that voted in favor of the motion.
I
Yes.
wonder about, I'm going to propose a modification that tries to strike the middle ground. That I think Brooks makes really good points. I think Crystal makes really good points, and it's difficult to say here, but what if we said opposes the requested variance for a private road unless I'm going to not get the language right, but formal assurances or without documented commitments by the developer that there shall be no gate and that only homes accessed by the road would be charged for maintaining it in the homeowners association. Those are the two big ones, right? Like saying we don't want some exclusive gated community. And if we make, affordable housing, those houses shouldn't have to pay for the big houses to have a road if that's what the developer wants for some other reason. But maybe that preserves the middle ground where Crystal's points are open and it improves the ability to build cheaply. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion, but I was looking for a middle ground. So I'll move a middle ground.
Okay, so a motion has been made. We have a second. Here in a second. All right, do we have any further discussion on this? Yes, Brian.
I have a question. I'm not sure who would have the answer for it, but kind of getting back to what Brooks was speaking to us about, does living on a private road and paying for the maintenance of that road exempt you from paying road taxes? So you're still paying.
The road that goes to that private road is public road.
Yeah, it's public road. So you're still paying.
Go to town square, that's a public road.
Yep. So yes, they are.
Okay.
That.
I understand why the developer wants it.
Hang on one second. I think Mike was next and I'll get it. So Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to some of the earlier questions that came up about whether this this ties our hand for any future suggestions about private roads, etc. I don't think it does. I think we're responding to the particular circumstances of this application, and we're only speaking to this application. And some of it probably is just a little bit of a lack of trust in the past, and also concerns about this being, about what could happen in the future and the change to the nature of our community by potentially putting in gated communities, etc. So this is really very specific. It's specific to this application and this road, not to all roads or any future private roads. And I think there's also a distinction between where there's a road within a condoized association, where there's it's a condoized development versus here where although they're in HOA, they're privately owned lots, so they are distinct lots. There's sort of a technical distinction there. And I don't think that's the case with the development down on down by the bridge.
Right. And then Kelly, did you have a question?
Oh, why do we think the developer wants this? I have trust issues, but it seems weird that she would want to maintain a road, like for all the points Kyle made.
Oh, I think the road requirement would be 60 feet, but here, if they privately owned it, could build it smaller.
Oh, so it's to save capital costs by taking on.
Yeah, and it's in probably the most challenging aspect where a lot of that bedrock and hummocky terrain is, because
She's trying
the
to,
primary first phase is the main road, which is the water road right now. This would be that road going up. So yeah, I think there's a cost savings by in avoiding a variance process to make it work.
Chris, I saw Crystal's hand go up first. Crystal.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, reiterate that I was the only vote at GHAC that was not in favor of this one, and the majority was in favor of it. So, but I also just didn't want to be a hypocrite if later I asked for this. So that is primarily the reason why. And I do agree with Mike that this could and should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. And this is very particular in regards to Holden Hills being discussed right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Crystal. And Mike?
Yeah, just briefly, my understanding is if the issue was just the road width, they could ask for a variance to reduce the road width by itself without making it a private road. So it's going beyond that. And again, this might just be a tactical decision, but it might also be because there's a different purpose. I just don't know. But to me, it's not the width of the road that's the problem. It's the private nature of the road that's the problem.
All right, if we are done with discussion, I would like to move to a roll call vote unless you have any objections.
Last discussion, if
Sorry,
I
yeah.
may, is
Yes.
that if no one else is volunteering, I will volunteer to help
Oh,
and then be happy to support it.
Thank you for covering that, Brianna. Thank you very much. Okay. But
Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Kel Ocknick,
yes.
Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you to everyone for your work on this, and especially Chandler for
Yeah.
catching that. That's such a fantastic eye to detail on all of these conditions. So thank you very much for that. Okay. Moving on to item 10, agenda item LUC 2512-06, FCC update on FCC bylaws. That was new business at LUC and was not discussed, so we haven't actually been discussed it. So we've gone a little bit backwards here because it has not actually been discussed at LUC yet. We have it on old business. So I would be happy to be treated as new business and address it in January, but I am open to other.
I'll move to postpone to January.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Do we have any objections? All right. We're going to be done with that item. Do we have any further discussions on FCC membership? Again, this actually, I want to say something about this. If this is about generally belonging in FCC, whether or not we want to be in it, that is another thing that has not yet been discussed at FCC. So if that is the intent of this, I would also, I might personally think that that should go in January. So we should treat it as new business and discuss it in January. Yes.
Did you mean to say land use
Sorry.
during all that?
Yes, I did. What did I
Okay,
say?
that makes
FCC.
sense.
Yes,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
It has not yet been discussed by land use.
Okay.
Do we have any objections to moving this to January? All right. Let's do it. Okay. Item number 11, capital budget for consideration under leaseback funding mechanism. Mike, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, I'll start this. So the main reason this is on the agenda is when we discussed this at the municipal manager meeting, one question that came up is if we go down this path, we may have to, we may be required to, or we may effectively end up having to make payments beyond our current tax cap. So that would require us to take this to the voters and get a vote on whether to increase the tax cap. The tax cap was actually set many years ago before we had even a police service, or our local tax cap was. Going through the numbers in a bit more detail with Kyle and Ross Risvold from the Treasurer's Office, it doesn't look like that's needed. There are two limits to how much we can borrow for capital on this kind of program. One limit is how much we can afford to pay back, what our payments are each month or each year. And the other one is how much the valuation of the property which gets leased actually is. And it turns out that the valuation of the property is roughly what we could pay under the current tax cap. So what it looks like at the moment is there would be no need to go beyond the tax cap if we were going to use this mechanism. And then there's one extra nuance, that this mechanism is basically, it's not correct to say it's a mortgage, but it's not dissimilar to a mortgage. Or actually, it's not dissimilar to sort of like a home equity loan, really. So what we're doing is we're taking property that the municipality owns that exists within the service area and basically leasing that to a trustee, or rather, the trustee gives us money in order to take that, and then we pay them lease fees. So it's this kind of weird relationship, but effectively, we're gaining capital, which we're paying off over a period of time against the value of property. So the value of the property is important in this, but we are currently spending a big chunk of our budget, like about 15% of our budget goes towards savings for capital expenses. So if we use this mechanism, we wouldn't need to save for capital expenses to the same extent. So there's already part of our budget that we've allocated could be released if we use this mechanism. Putting the whole thing together, I don't think we're quite ready to make a decision on this, and we don't need to make a decision on this yet. So what I'm going to, if people are happy with that, what I'm going to suggest is we normally have a discussion around capital needs in the sort of January, February timescale. And I think that's a good time to revisit this and go through this in more detail, probably in a work session, so everyone is comfortable with it and understands what it is. And then we can look at whether this is the right path to basically get funding for capital needs or not. But as I said, it was on the agenda primarily because there was a possibility we would have to act very quickly to get something on the ballot in April for Girdwood only to vote on. But it does not look like that is the case. I may be missing something as well, so I'll see if there's anything you want to add. Kyle was also in the discussion with Ross.
No, I don't think there's an urgency at this point. I think there can be a balance between using this mechanism and still potentially saving to give us flexibility for small capital purchases like fire department things. So no, I think that we can find this and have something back to the board in January or February.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on this item? All right. Moving on. Item 12, agenda item LUC 2511-05, discuss and consider recommendation regarding proposed AO 2025-17 increase of 2%. Mike, do you want to take this one too?
Yeah, I can speak to this briefly. So as you recall, there was a proposal to add 5% to short-term rental, to room tax, effectively to room tax for short-term rentals. That is in front of the Assembly tomorrow night. They may act on it tomorrow night, or they might push it off to the first meeting in January. There is effectively an alternative. It's not quite formally proposed this way, but I think everyone is seeing this as an alternative to that. Whereas instead of taxing short-term rentals specifically, an additional room tax is effectively increased for everybody. For everyone that pays room tax. That's hotels as well as short-term rentals, bed and breakfast, etc. The argument for that is it's pretty simple. You can add the 2% without really making any other changes. There's not really much of a code change that needs to be made. That 2% could also be available for housing. In fact, would be available for housing and other infrastructure. The problem is that I don't think there would be any appetite or really justification for directing that to the geographic areas where the money is raised. So with short-term rentals, there is a direct link between having a very large number of short-term rentals in Girdwood and its impact on our housing. And because most of the money that goes to room tax, 80% of it comes from hotels, there is no link between having a hotel here and it immediately taking away housing from the residential market. So And across Anchorage as a whole, the majority of the hotels, I think there are 8 so-called luxury hotels in the municipality. 1 is in Girdwood, 2 are in Midtown, and 5 are in downtown. So, or downtown-ish. So, you know, a lot of the money is being raised in a fairly small area of downtown, but it isn't necessarily having an impact on the housing there. So, what I've heard in land use and from general discussion is there seems to be less of an appetite, for taking a particular stand for or against this tax. We have taken a position in favor of the short-term rental tax if the money raised in Girdwood is directed to Girdwood to address our housing issue. There is almost no chance this would be geographically ring-fenced in the same way. There would be a fund available which potentially we could apply for as a one-off funding for a project, but it would be a one-off funding for a project. It wouldn't be a sort of continual or a sort of recurring tax stream that could be used for. There are more ways to use that to raise capital than there are if you're just asking for money and getting it occasionally. So my sense is there is no strong desire to either support or oppose this, and I have not generated a resolution in favor or against it. But I throw it to the body. Is the body interested in supporting or opposing this particular 2% increase to room tax?
Thank you, Mike. I would like to just add to that, that yes, LUC did discuss this item and chose to take no action on it.
I'm happy to mirror LUC.
So do I hear it? Sorry, go ahead, Brianna.
That's fine. I would just, if I had to make a choice, it would be to write a letter of non-objection. But then that, if this passes, our community, or we would need to be pretty in tune with where this is going and ask for the special project often.
Repeatedly.
And then if they don't want to take it up tomorrow, then.
All right, so that boils down to, do we have a motion regarding this item? All right, not hearing any, I am moving on to item 13. Review and consider shifting GBOS meeting dates to January 6th, February 23rd, and March 23rd due to conflicts with holidays and school schedule.
I move that we move the meeting dates in January, February, and March a week to avoid conflicts with holidays and school schedule.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I'll take this time to announce that I will be absent for the January 26th.
Okay.
And further on in the agenda, I see that we have our quarterly meeting scheduled for January 26th in Anchorage. And we should invite the representatives to come down just before our meeting here instead and see GBOS in full action.
I believe what we're doing is alternating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we could always invite, but there were some that, yeah, the last time they were down here, right? And I had missed it and I was in the city. So anyway, okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any disagreement about this? Or, okay. So I'm going to say by assent that we agree to those changes in the meeting dates. All right. Moving on to 13B, we have a discussion about HLB, and this is a little complicated. The HLB red line document is available on the HLB webpage, which I think I had up. One of the biggest things that jumped out for me was the business of moving 6-0, sorry, let me check my notes. 6-134 and 6-076 to the 5-year plan. And they also got rid of any mention of community-led development for 6-039 and no reference to the local nonprofit. The comments were connected to, let's see, I believe it was page 79 of the actual packet. The main thing is, I am curious about if we want to have, the reason I chose or asked to have this added to the agenda is if we want to have any response to that, and it would pretty much need to be at the meeting. And if we don't have anyone that can attend the meeting, either virtually or in person, this might become a moot point that we can give our opinions about this after the fact, but I don't know how much good it's going to do if we can't get a response, or we come up with a written response and we try to get to them prior to the meeting.
When's the meeting?
This Thursday
1:30 PM.
1:30.
at 11:30. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay.
Oh, 1:30. Sorry, 1:30. Yes.
Usually.
I have to, I spoke.
Well, I would propose that if we did do anything documentation, it would be simply, I guess, but take our comments and say, dude, put these back in, please, now. But I mean, we could just reiterate and you could take Brian's my spirit animal, take the more demanding language that we've been starting to use to be like, whatever the right word is, I'm getting too tired, but to make a statement, we gave the comments and you took them out and you made changes which are in direct contradiction to the position of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, put them back in, something to that effect. And I think if anybody can go and represent us, I think that's a good idea. And the message of that representation should be exactly those comments. And I'm not able to go myself, but I definitely support if somebody can go and make those statements.
Yes.
For clarity, I think it was mentioned, was there just two particular things that were not the same?
I think she just named 4.
Do you want what page those might be on? Then I could pull them up.
She said 79.
Okay, so yeah, I do have the pages. Sorry, let me check my notes. So page 17 had one of the changes, and that is page 17 of the plan, not of the packet. Okay.
Here it is.
All right, so they did give us the red line that we requested. You can see what was taken out.
Do we want
I
that
think
to?
this should also be read in concert with the response to public comments, which is at the back of the packet.
So, right, and so that lists it as comment 31. So at the back of the packet. And then while we're scrolling down for that, Crystal, did you have a comment you wanted to add to this discussion?
Yeah, I just want to state my disappointment with that coming out of the one-year plan. Girdwood Community Land Trust was in the annual work plan in 2025. And then it was in the draft that was released out. And then now subsequently has been removed and placed into the 5-year. And so from my perspective, this is a step backwards for the effort that I've been working on, which is very disappointing. And also the lack of mention of a community-led development, I think is important to note in regards to 6-039. And also confused why they would also be doing the same thing for removing it out of the annual work plan for 6-134 for the RV park going to Girdwood Parks and Rec. They also combined those two parcels in their comment, which I think is strange, and they are two separate parcels separated by a road with two very distinct purposes and uses intended. And so I don't see any reason why they should be combined in the plan. And so anyway, from a general standpoint, I was very disappointed to see these changes.
Do we have any other discussion about this thus far? I know this is a lot to process quite quickly, but do we have any other discussion about this? Yes, Kyle.
I will mention tomorrow night at the Parks Plan meeting, we will show that, the alternative is that 6-07 is not shown as to become parkland. It will still remain open for potential development. And we did have a meeting with HOB and we got some feedback about that because they knew that people had, there's that parcel right there has the most possibility for development because it's out of the floodplain. But we do show in the plan that 6-134 would be used for combined use of RV park, dog park, recreational parks needs. And I can see what they're saying here. They want it to be adopted before they move any action on it. So at this point, that's where we're at with the plan in the draft stage.
Okay, so just a point of clarification like that. It appears that they are saying that because of this parks plan being under development, that they're putting this off into the 5-year plan. But as I understand the parks plan calendar, it would be done. We hope for it to be done partway through next year.
Correct. Yeah, and it's on pace to do it.
Right.
So they could start on the process next year.
So I think that there is some legitimate concern here about putting this off farther than necessary. Yeah, Crystal, did you have a follow-up comment?
Oh, yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say, is if the parks plan is scheduled to be approved in April, then, so the first half of the year, why are we saying something is not going to happen for the entire remainder of the year? I think it's valid and important to say that the parks plan should be approved prior to the disposals or prior to really anything. But as soon as that parks plan is done, then I think it shouldn't hold up other things. Thanks.
Okay, and Mike?
Yeah, just the unfortunate reality is that if the parks plan also has to be approved by the assembly, and the experience of the Girdwood comp plan was that we approved it in our community in May 2024, well, April really 2024, and it wasn't approved by the assembly for nearly a year. So it's 11 months later before the assembly approved it. So if they're basically, I think there could be a nuance here where if the community of Girdwood has approved it, then they could move forwards and not wait for although it technically isn't adopted by the assembly, and the assembly can stick their thumb on the scales, the community will have made its decision when we approved it locally. So, and as I think, as we expect, that's likely to be spring.
That's a good point. Thank you. And Kelly, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, it's a valid point, but the comp plan had massive controversy. And the setbacks and, development plans and big money in opposition to the desires of the community. The parks plan is very non-controversial. Like, as far as I know, there's no plan, there's no parcels that we want to make a park and Pomeroy wants to make a hotel. And as long as that's not the case, then there's no reason that the assembly is going to drag like they did for the comp plan. I mean, I think it's a good point, but the comparison is weak.
We're worried about pickleball.
Was that?
We're worried about pickleball.
Well, pickleball is a major controversy.
Pickleball.
Splitting the idol. I mean, pickleball is like daylight savings time, man. Like, let's really
The thing I learned last summer is don't bring up the P.
Yeah.
yeah, pickleball is freaking, don't take my daylight, man.
Okay, Mike. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
yeah, Mike.
Yeah, just very briefly, I take Kelly's point. There were definitely more complexities in their comprehensive plan. Just going to the assembly and going through that process is probably going to add 6 months, but I don't think it would be a full year. But it's 6 months or so. What I'm saying is, if we basically make the statement that they say the community of Girdwood's approval, well, that will be April or May. There's no reason to wait for the assembly to either confirm it or deny it, because that's not Girdwood's approval. So if they're actually looking for the community's feedback, that's going to happen earlier next year.
That seems very well stated, Mike. You wouldn't happen to be free on Thursday.
Unfortunately, I'm not free on Thursday. Well, I could be free. I'm not able to be in Anchorage on Thursday, but I could call in if nobody else is available.
Let me take some more feedback here. Do we have, Amanda?
Sorry. Yeah, one thing, and I'll be the first to admit, I haven't had the time to review any of the notes, but one of the things that I did highlight with in a lot of the comments I submitted to HLB was kind of in reference to this, and that was throughout the whole document. To me, these are policy documents, and so when you're going through and you're stating, well, as in the Southtown like master plan, you're putting the cart in front of the horse bit, because one has to be activated before you can implement it. So I actually think it's great. I feel like some of this stuff, although I realize there's little contradictions at the moment, a lot of it does actually clean up the policy, and I'm kind of impressed with that.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for your feedback. Okay. Yes, Brian.
What do our two representatives on HLBAC have to say about any of this?
Well, I can just say one thing about that is that they are strongly instructed not to be representative. And so they like repeatedly told that that's not what they are. What they are is Girdwood residents holding a Girdwood resident seat. And so that we even got feedback about the ways in which they report back to the bodies. So they might have, I haven't spoken to those about this, but I think we do just have to be real careful about that language. I have fought to have Girdwood residents there just on the basis of them understanding the area, but it is really notable that we don't get to vote. And so in that sense, they're not our representative because we don't get to vote on who it is that goes there, right? It's the city that decides for us. It's a good question. However, I'm not sure it's germane at the moment. Sorry, I don't mean to be speaking too much from the chair here, but at the moment we have to decide, does GBOS want to speak to this on Thursday?
Agreed. Yeah, I am getting a little, curious about with our insistence on 2 seats on HLBAC, what it does for us.
Not as much as we would like.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any further comments on this? If we don't have any further discussion on this, I would like to discuss, I would like to know if the board is interested in having somebody speak to the GBOS position that has already been outlined in our feedback for this work plan.
Maybe it's a better question of can somebody do it before we ask if we want somebody to.
Well, actually, I think there's 2 parts. First of all, do we have interest in reiterating a position that disagrees with the apparent compromise made here, number 1, and then number 2, can we do it in person or do we need to try to write something out super quick? We already do have somebody, like I'd be very comfortable with someone who's attending virtually and not in person. Because I think we're all clear, you do have to like write in ahead of time that you're going to be speaking, but. Yeah.
I'm comfortable with from what we've discussed so far, the understanding that we've come to on the yellow highlighted portion. If Mike can call in, and of course he has to sign up the day before, I cannot call in or either.
I can't either.
Yep, I can't either.
Okay, so, all right, do we have any objections to Mike? Thank you, Mike, for volunteering.
Yeah.
Voluntold. We would very much appreciate if you would reiterate the GBOS position on this on Thursday.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 14, consider requesting amendment 2025-0003, amend ANC 21.05 and 21.15 to ease restrictions on agricultural uses and food production in Anchorage Bowl to include Chapter 9/Girdwood. Mike, I'm definitely throwing this one to you.
Yeah, so there's a number of things that come through the planning and zoning commission that appear to only apply to the bowl, but when you actually look into the details, they're broader than that. And this is one example. So this reduces, I haven't looked into it in a huge amount of detail, but it would give a bit more flexibility and freedom to certain types of cottage food production. And the question is, do we care enough to take a position on this, and do we want to ensure it applies to Girdwood? But this is new business, so we can go into more details next month.
Well, I do have a question about that.
Actually, no, we can't next month.
Right.
Yeah, we can't next month. So we want to. So this also, I think this happened. I think land use occurs before this, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe it does.
Just trying to remember the dates.
That day.
It's that day.
Oh, that day. Yeah, of course. Because this is a code change, it would be something that also goes in front of the assembly. So it probably isn't absolutely required that we make our comments known to the planning and zoning. It'd probably be helpful, but if we can't do it in terms of timing, then we have a second bite of the cherry when it comes to the assembly.
Okay, so it seems to me like our best that's a really good way to put it, Mike. How about we run this past LUC?
I think that's fine.
Okay. 15, consider agenda topics for MOA GBOS quarterly meeting scheduled January 26th at all.
So in the meeting packet, I put your last agenda. Not sure if you have repeat topics or new ones. This is new business. But again, the meeting will be on January 26th, and your meeting will be January 26th after that. So you should probably make some determinations or make a plan to make determinations on what you want to talk about. And then I think you and Mike will be having a meeting with the city manager probably the week before. So anyway, there's not a lot of meeting time between now and January 26th.
Well, I think among other things, we could at least take number 1 off, because at that point, the Whittier police contract will be signed.
Yep.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, Kyle, but I don't think we have anything else. Unless we have any further things to discuss about the enforcement of misdemeanors. I know we did bring that up last time.
I think we'll.
I think that is, yeah, sorry.
Once we get done with the contract, we'll make that a task item to work on towards, and hopefully we can maybe get something resolved within this contract period to make that work.
Okay. For item number 2, we clearly we're fine on the extension. We have discussed HLBAC seat distribution. I'm not sure if there's anything else we need to add or follow up on that.
That item is actually in front of the Assembly for introduction tomorrow, to add a second seat for Girdwood. So with luck, that will occur in the first week of January.
Right. When I originally added that onto the agenda, I wanted the 3rd seat. But
I understand.
we'll take first things first, I suppose. And then the management plan, we've already discussed that. So I think we're done with number 2 altogether. Does anyone have anything else they want to add in terms of HLB on the agenda?
I think it's worth talking about this Orca View Room partial and reiterating our request that, and asking for their support in really truly taking GBOS not as advisory, but as like a full part. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like HLB is on track to run away with that. And I think it's worth having on the agenda to make, our positions clear as a community and request their support in bringing HLB in alignment with GBOS.
Okay, so if we have HLB on the agenda here, then that'll be in regards to reiterating our GBOS positions, in our responses to the HLB work plan.
And by that point, you should know if the replat has happened, both for that and the industrial park.
That'd be useful.
And if the industrial park has happened, then we should really talk about a timeline for when the work will happen for reassigning and making sure that the GBOS could start develop with their lot down there.
Okay, so let's keep HLB on with those subtopics.
Yep.
Okay. Intergovernmental charges, that's still an active conversation.
So this might be, instead of trying to hold your work session, which really hasn't worked for anybody's schedules. So I don't know if you want to keep this on there.
Because we have not had our work session about it.
You can continue to have the conversation and have the director there get into more of the details on this one.
Maybe determine whether or not it's going to be necessary. Maybe she will look at the discrepancies, the things that looked so strange.
I thought we had some outstanding questions regarding those, so let's keep that on because we need those answered still. Okay. Area-wide police special tax levy funds. We did discuss that a bit. Mike, did you have?
Yeah, we discussed that a bit. We got some feedback from why it's area-wide, and basically an agreement in principle that means Whittier can, or equipment which would be owned by the municipality of Anchorage but used by Whittier does fall underneath that. Whittier is actually in the process of upgrading some of their cameras and their other equipment. That may or may not be appropriate. I also noticed in the response from DOT about the speed limits that there is a suggestion we should have mobile speed radar. Those sort of, I can't remember what they're called. The sort of things that sit by the side of the road to say how fast you're going, which are meant to be informational, not a target. That might be actually a better use, because I think that would fall arguably under enforcement and would be something that the municipality or the service area could own. There's a bit more discussion to be had here. I don't think it needs to be in the manager meeting, though. In the manager meeting, I don't think it needs to be there.
Okay, so we will remove that item for now.
Yes.
And I feel that we could remove item number 5 as well. I feel that we have that clarification, even if, but disagree with me if you'd like. Do you not agree with that one?
No, I think we're good.
We're good. Okay.
Yep.
And then next up on lease back, it sounded to me like we're wanting to do more. So we're good on that. We can get rid of that one.
We understand the concept. Now we just need to figure out what we want to do.
Okay. And then I would like to propose adding at the LUC meeting there were several suggestions at other meetings as well that we talk to the city about dark night. So that we can talk about that standard for Girdwood rather than just having it be just for Holton Hills. So there was essentially a request from LUC that we talk to the city about what it would take to create dark night light standards for Girdwood in general. So I'd like to add that. And did you have something to add to that, Mike?
I do. I think one thing that this came up a little bit in an earlier discussion today, there's specification in the DCM, in the design criteria manual about lighting on roadways, and there's also code. It's not clear which is the better path for us to pursue. So I think that's a great discussion. The other thing I was going to suggest as a new item is we make basically a number of different suggestions in that resolution we passed earlier on the 50, on looking forward after 50 years. I think that should be on the agenda.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. And then I would also recommend, or actually, Mike, let me ask what you think about this question about the ruling about FCC representatives having to come from GBOS. Do you think that the best thing on that one is to ask for the official ruling?
I think we can ask. We can ask staff to get that ruling rather than bring it up in that meeting.
Okay, just ask staff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we have any discussion about the things that have been added, or is anyone who doesn't want those added, and/or do you have other things you want added? Any discussion about the agenda at this point now? And Margaret, have we made it clear as mud for you?
So I'll be providing you with topics and you guys can help flesh them out.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Mike, did you have anything else to add?
No, that's great.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to move on to item number 16 about the volunteer for the Wildlife Urban Interface Community Action Team.
I'll start that off just quick. I attended the WCAT meeting last November because of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, the CWPP, which was passed last week and it was signed. So that's why maybe it's more relevant also to bring forward a Girdwood community member that would be willing to volunteer. Their meetings are the 4th Monday of every month, which means our next GBOS meeting, I'll be here. So I won't be calling into their meeting. And it just needs to be any person without great influence. So it couldn't be Kai Holland, the chief. So we did have someone from PSAC say they were interested, and it's also, I think, open to the public, but if there was someone from Girdwood that wanted to start going, it doesn't have to be well, we can decide who it could be, but I would be fine to go to it as a fire department supervisor, but maybe someone else would know more.
Okay.
I mean, I support formal GBOS representation and Brianne was over. I mean, it's nice when the community volunteers, but I didn't know we had a volunteer on board as well. So that seems.
I went to it because of the CWPP and I read it. So I felt like qualified to attend. But from here forward, I'm not sure. And we could ask Kai, or Mike has his hand up too.
Right, thank you. Mike?
Hi, this isn't quite on topic, but I just wondered if, really to Brianna, did you get any response about the concerns we had and the comments we made, or GBOS made, about the CWPP? I didn't see anything that came back other than the acknowledgement they'd received it.
Right, just that Stephanie Dufek wrote us thanking us for our really thoughtful letter. GBOS. So it sounded like it was accepted, even though there was some emailing about it needs to be in this long survey. Survey is how you have to submit comments, even though we had our meeting, we wrote a letter, and it sounded like they were going to take it. It sounds like they took it.
Because there is a kind of fairly fundamental concern that that Girdwood is treated as if we have identical weather to Anchorage Bowl, even though we have 3 times the rain. And everything is based on that. So the recommendations are based on us having the same weather as the bowl. The risk assessment is based on us having the same dry weather as the bowl. And obviously that is not reality. And if that's not addressed, then I'm not sure if the CWPP is actually serving our purposes.
It looks like we had a
Oh, could I say one more thing? Kai? Most of the people at this meeting are from their community councils. So it would be appropriate for a GBOS, but we just have a meeting the next the 4th Monday. But
okay.
I digress. Yes.
So I think the question about whether or not and how the GBOS comments were incorporated in the final plan is a valid issue and is one that applies to other community councils, because we fortunately were able to get your comments accepted, but I appreciate the extra effort you went to make sure, because they were otherwise going to reject them if they weren't in that survey. So thank you for going that extra step. But what I would offer is, my intent is to work with Troy and to begin some sort of work between now and the January meeting to do a comparison to figure out what did they do with the comments, because there were a few councils that put in a fair amount of work identifying some fairly significant changes that need to be made. The short amount of time they took to acknowledge those changes and to say they were somehow incorporated that magically happened within a day or two makes me wonder what was incorporated. And I think moving forward, the WUI-CAT group will probably be trying to continue to advocate, as we have been, to kind of push beyond the standard plan and some of the changes in the unique areas. So I think that'll be a January topic, will be to figure out what was done with respect to the comments, what was missed, what was incorporated, so we can perhaps come back. We begin doing our planning in February for the wildfire season. So I'll try and bring a report back to this group on what's in there and what's not. It was kind of a starting point for what's next.
I guess this is new business, so we're not able to.
Well, I was just going to say, actually, I was just going to ask the timing question on this. Is there a time interest in deciding this earlier rather than later?
Well, if there's a January meeting, and then I would just offer that we got interest at PSAC, but no formal submission. And if we have somebody on the board here who can represent us directly, that seems fine.
Sorry.
So I talked to the person who suggested that she would be interested. The whole conversation was a little bit tentative and odd. And I think the reason for that has to do with whether this is an assignment by GBOS to represent Girdwood this way, or whether this is just a call for a volunteer and public awareness. So she sounded today like she's still interested. She may not be available for the meeting in January. I didn't really get a sense for that. But she also is not necessarily looking for GBOS to appoint her to anything. She's willing to go as a volunteer who happens to be a member of the community. So, and I think that it is a good question, whether this is an appointment situation or if this is something where a member from GBOS is the automatic selected one, in which case, like, I think we should think about whether or not that's really realistic in a lot of cases, because there could be a lot of different groups that show up for people to participate and including Safer Seward Highway and who knows, board members for whatever thing that's going on that has to do with the community. So I think that there's maybe a moment for reflection over the next month on how involved GBOS wants to be in making appointments versus just making the community aware that there is an option and to participate and letting people do as they wish.
All right, yes.
I just think it's really important that we establish a really clear precedent and working principle that if anybody is formally representing Girdwood, they would be appointed by GBOS. So if this community is, asking for Girdwood representation, I just think that whatever it is, we need to formalize it. It needs to be minuted, and then we need a mechanism by which it's fed back. And I don't need to overwork it for like this person, but I just think it's a slippery slope if we have any gray area between volunteer and then somebody who could show up in a representation role without a mechanism to circle back to Girdwood embedded in that representation. And I think we've seen that, and I think we need to learn from how complicated that makes things and not let it happen again. And that requires some black and white thinking on this stuff.
Thank you. So can I circle back to the question of is there any reason to decide any of this tonight?
I think because it conflicts with our next meeting, it's not time sensitive for one of us to be there. And I've put it before the staff and other committees just to go through the progress instead of assuming the role of the representative. But because of the CWPP, I went to the last one just because of the CWPP, to be transparent. And their December meeting's canceled. Otherwise it's next week. Yeah, next week's canceled. So sorry, that was a long answer, Jennifer.
No,
I don't think so.
No, and then can I just confirm you are saying that you would be interested in continuing within the position? Okay, excellent, but that we don't have to decide it tonight.
I don't think so.
Because you can't go.
Our meetings will conflict with their meeting.
Right, okay. So I'd like to move, sorry.
For a month or two, not normally though.
Right.
But I've had to do the same thing where I have to disappear here for, but yeah, for January, February, I think, yeah.
Well, January, February, and March, actually.
So far. I'll have to look at, I can't find the calendar, but it's
Okay.
the fourth Monday. So
Okay.
thank you everyone for that, for your patience.
All right, for now, let's move on and just the agenda item LUC 2510-07, LUC recommendation for GBOS letters regarding solid waste service fee increase. Letters in plural, because I believe that there were two different ones in the course of the conversation. LUC decided not only to oppose the fee increase, but also to ask for recycling. And there was another thing. Okay, that's let's see, moves to, thank you. So there was a fee structure, right? And then the Sunday, that's right, addition of Sunday service. Now, we've got a little bit backwards because LUC had already talked about this several times. So they didn't move this to new business or to old business. They were just a little bit off cycle. So this is new business for us. It was old business for them. They've already voted. All right. And yes.
I was going to suggest that this might be a better conversation at the MOA meeting.
How about we add it to the agenda for MOA?
I mean,
Good idea.
Yeah, because last time we talked about there, that's when they got another day. Is when they went down to a day schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. Do we have anything else? I would entertain a motion.
So I moved to adjourn.
Yes, move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
you. Move to go to bed. I was hoping for 9:30, but.